Good afternoon. Wazid, Annette Bed. Hi, Annette, Truth Speaker 27. Jennifer Ashby Okoli, good afternoon to you. Jonathan Carr, good afternoon. Good afternoon to His Excellency, the President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor. Good afternoon, sir. Hi, Diane. Leon Joseph, greetings. Helen Faria Trotman, good afternoon to you. Natasha Scott Hubert. Oh, Natasha is joining us all the way from Austria. Welcome, Natasha. Sedena Kwashi, Marlene Panton. Greetings, Marissa Guevara Diaz. Hi, Marissa. Katia Best. Most welcome, Katia. Kenneth Gabriel, G.H. Marshall, Mikkel. Greetings. Proud to be Trini. Whitney Isaac. Hi, Whitney. Serene Plus 20. Good afternoon. Sabrina Bruce. Hi, Sabrina. Rukmin Gangadine. Hi, Rukmin. Natasha Scott Hubert. Greetings. Heather Lee. Dean Rodney. Good afternoon to you. All right, so I just thought I would jump on for a little bit this afternoon. Folks, so many things happened over the course of the last week. I just wanted to touch briefly on some of them. Before it piles up, I'm traveling again tomorrow, so I'll be out for the week. So I might miss some of the things that happen. Mary DeHay, hi Mary. Claire Carrington, hi Claire. Jeremy Lewis, good afternoon to you. Point Commander Sharon, greetings. Yeah, I just came from the gym, so yeah. I have to get that exercise in. Put in my health first. Leslie Ann Babatunde, greetings. Leah, I stopped you from going to the beach, but oh gosh. I thought with there being CPL on that, people would have been tuned into the television, so I was of two minds, but I said, let me just jump in quickly, touch on a few things. Miriam Castellano, good afternoon to you. Vera Clark. Vera is listening to us from Princestown. Hi, Vera. So let me jump into it one time. So many things happened, as I said, over the course of the past week, causing people to ask the question, does this government really know what they're doing? But I think we've established that a while now. They don't. This, as I've said before, is the never thought government. Default government got into office not because they were able to convince the majority of the population to support them, but rather because PNM, a lot of PNM supporters and PNM people who normally vote for the PNM decided to withhold their vote from the PNM for a variety of reasons. And by default, this government came into office. And I kept telling you, your vote is non-refundable. You only have one chance. So ponder on it, make sure you make the right choice, because if you make the wrong choice, you have 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days to correct it. And I'm amazed at some of the things that have happened, or some of the things that are happening. And the supporters of the UNC are going all out to defend what I consider to be the indefensible. So this, as far as they're concerned, this government could do no wrong. Even if they do things that might have been done by the PNM, that when the PNM was in office, these same UNC supporters would have condemned and called for election and all of that, and this government, this, that, and the next. Their own government is doing it, and rather than condemn it as they did when the PNM did it, when the PNM do it, so why UNC can't do it? But the PNM do this, and the PNM do that. That is why the PNM is in opposition. You all didn't support some of the things that they did, and you voted them out of office. And you have a new government that promised to do things differently. So if they're doing some of the same things that you'll condemn the PNM for, it's wrong when the PNM do it, but it's right when the UNC do it, or you would defend the UNC doing it to say, well, the PNM did it. Well, if that's the case, the PNM should just remain in office. You should just leave the PNM there, right? Andel George, good afternoon, sir. Yesterday. Belated greetings to you, sir. Camille Pitt Nelson, greetings, Carlita Springer. So let me touch on some of the other things before I get to the main thing. All right. So we had some more board appointments last week. And true to form, not much change. I mean, they've been appointing one or two token persons of non-East Indian descent to these boards to try and, appease those who they feel might have an issue with it, or to challenge the narrative that the government is only populating the boards with persons of a particular ethnic background. So every here and there, they will put one or two persons who last name might not be of an East Indian nature, and therefore, we say, well, all right, well, they can't say that they only put in such persons on the board, but that's not my angst, right? They could appoint who, they could do what they want in respect of that. That's up to them. What I have an issue with is some of the characters that have been appointed to some of these boards, right? Persons who should be nowhere near a state board, persons who should have no involvement in public life, but yet still they are there. And I told you all before the election, I said there were people waiting in the wings, licking their chops, who want to be on state board, who hoping to be ambassadors, who looking to be senators, all of these things. I said they're quiet in the background. But given the fact that as Rodney Charles once said, nobody of integrity wants to associate themselves with the UNC, I told you all they would have had a difficult time in finding persons of good stock and caliber to populate these boards. And so they would have to resort to pulling people from the swamp. They would have to drain the swamp to get people to put on these boards. I told you all that, right? For those of you who are normal listeners. And so said, so done. I mean, there are some people who I hold no brief for, I couldn't care for, but at least they had some degree of, some degree of something. Now I could say, I ain't really too keen on that person, but okay. People like Jayanti Lakshmi wasn't my favorite person. I always said that all of her contributions in the Senate was really a performance for Kamala Prasad-Bissessar to pick her to represent the UNC in a safe seat. So I really didn't like her politics too much, but at the end of the day, I understood where she was coming from. She's somebody I wouldn't mind if they put on a state board. To lead a board, I wouldn't mind that. Because as I said, I know she was just performing. But in terms of her integrity, hasn't really come into question. Right? But two boards of concern to me, TTT and NP. Some of you all might have missed that. So we saw they appointed and we see more again. Lord have mercy. Which board to start with? NP. Let me see if I get this here. Hold on, just so. So the new chairman of NP is one Arnold Ram. A name that is very familiar to all of us, or should be, right? Former member of parliament for Caroni Central. A man who is not without controversy. A man who should never have sat in the parliament in the first place, by virtue of the fact that before he was even screened to run for a seat in the general election of 2020, it was public knowledge that Arnold Ram was fired from 2 public utilities companies for gross misconduct. Gross misconduct. He was fired. He didn't resign. He was fired because his conduct was unbecoming of an employee, the position that he held. We know, at least in one of those public utility companies, he held a senior management position. Today, Mr. Ram is now the chairman of the board of NP. So his questionable past with respect to those 2 public utilities companies didn't figure prominently in the decision, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. So he's not good enough to have been given the nod to run for the seat of Caroni Central again, 2025, but he's good enough to chair the board of NP, not just be a member or director, chairman of the board. We hear Mrs. Prasad Bisasa talk about busting head, warning her ministers. I heard all the cavorting with PNM financiers and all the 1% fake elite. What the hell is fake elite? What does that mean? So what is a genuine elite? I wish you would give us a definition. What is genuine elite? So if it is that you don't support, you have money, you are financing, and you don't support the PNM, that makes you a genuine elite. But once you support the PNM, you're fake. A fake elite. All right? I don't know what's I see with the 1% and so on. Because that's some 1% that supported her. But anyway. So you come to talk about boss head, and I will fire you. And if it is, I'm putting you on warning that I know and I'm aware. So fire them. Because you're telling them conduct that they are engaging in now is conduct that warrants firing. But I ain't gonna fire you yet. So you've already engaged in the conduct that warrants firing. But I'm not gonna fire you, even though you're engaging in that conduct. I'm just gonna warn you and let you know that I know, so that you would cease and desist from engaging in the conduct that warrants firing. And if I hear you continue to engage in the conduct, then I'm going to fire you. But I'm not going to call your name. No, I will not publicly shame you as well. I'm going to give you an opportunity to change your ways. Right? The activities, 2025 to 2030 is not 2010 to 2015. Mistakes were made between 2010 to 20. What mistakes, madam? Because for 10 years, you told us your government was perfect. For 10 years, you told us that your government between 2010 to 2015 was pristine. All of the allegations of wrongdoing and corruption that the PNM highlighted was all PNM machinations, was all lies, was all a PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt. But none of that was true. So when you say now, you made that mistakes were made between 2010 to 2015, and Kamla of today is not Kamla of 2010 to 2015, and this is Kamla 2.0. What does that mean? Are you now admitting that all of the allegations of wrongdoing that the PNM highlighted, that your supporters claimed was not true, that it was true? And now you are warning your ministers, some of them from who served in that administration, that you are not going to tolerate them repeating the same things that they did in that time period, Mrs. Posabi Sasa? Because being Hyatt, Lyman, having a good time, spending money, running up tabs in Hyatt for their friends and their family and their well, I wouldn't even say co-workers, right? But the usual suspects now. Hyatt seems to be the favorite Lyman, but everybody had a corner. You remember between 2010 to 2015, there was a corner called the Rudy's Corner. It was Rudy's Corner, yeah. When I can't remember which commission of inquiry they had. And we had some former manager or director from Unicot who came and testified, and she spoke about Oreo cookies and all this kind of thing. And you all remember that? Rudy's Corner. And I am told that individual frequents that establishment. I mean, after all, his office is right upstairs. So taxpayers' money paying for that? I don't know. Tabs being run up? I don't know. I hear, it have executive room and all kind of so that has now become the stomping ground. In fact, you're seeing pictures and videos of certain people, UNC counselors, certain UNC counselors who are accused of trying to groom a 15-year-old boy, schoolboy, to engage in certain types of sexual conduct. You'll have heard me speak about that before. I'm seeing pictures and videos of this individual bareback in Hyatt by the pool, liking themselves. All of a sudden, the last 10 years, you weren't seeing that. They never used to go to, I ain't seen no pictures pop up with them in Hyatt, no videos, but all of a sudden, in the last 3 months, oh yeah, they're frequenting Hyatt by the pool, relaxing, having a good time. Who paying for that? Meanwhile, back at the ranch, 35,000 people who have lost their jobs in the last 3 months have not been, some of them have not been able to pay their bills. They can't buy food. In fact, this morning I had to visit one of them who reached out to me asking for some help to prepare a meal today for herself and 5 children. Yeah, so before I went to the gym, I had to make a stop at the grocery. And yeah, since I've changed my diet and stuff, I had a lot of stuff in my pantry that I no longer eat, stuff that I had purchased. And yeah, so I was able to put together, I don't even want to call it a hamper or whatever. It was quite a bit of stuff. Yeah. And I made a stop in the grocery to assist. But meanwhile, yeah. So you're telling me Kamala of 2010, 2015 is not the same Kamala today, but you're still condoning. Fire the tail one time. You want to play Bajon. What kind of big talk, bravedage? Fire them. Right, too early. How it will look? How it will look? Very early on in your last incarnation as Prime Minister, you had to fire people very early. We recall Mary King was the first one to get fired within months of them coming into office. So you don't want to do it too early now. So you warn them. But that is to fool who? The population, right? And your supporters. You ain't fooling nobody else. Those of us who have sense, you ain't fooling us, Mrs. Pasabi. We know. You can't fool us with that nonsense, that dotish talk. Because you're not going to fire anybody to make your government look bad. You know that is one of the things that contributed to your first term being 1-2. Your first incarnation as Prime Minister being 1-2 because of that. The frequency with which you were firing ministers. So you warn people, hey, I see all the coverting with them PNM financiers and PNM contractors and the like. If you have information or evidence that any of these so-called PNM contractors and the like have engaged in illegal activity, well, take the information to the police. That's what you're always saying, that when allegations were leveled against your government, when allegations are leveled against your ministers, when allegations are leveled against your MP, take the information to the police. So all of these contractors that you see is PNM contractors, and why is it that your ministers are comfortable to hang out with these people? That's their friends, not so? But you see, I am not fooled. The UNC outspent the PNM by millions of dollars in that recently concluded general election. In one constituency alone, I'm hearing that in Toko Sangi Grandi, over $15 million was spent on that campaign. So I am told. Just that one constituency alone, where that money came from. This is a party that don't have a headquarters, so they can't afford a headquarters. But they were able to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on their election campaign, far more than the PNM who was in government. Far more. In fact, I had a conversation some time ago with someone who was in the so-called belly of the beast, the UNC. And the person left and they came over to the PNM. And they said to me that coming over to the PNM for them was a culture shock. In the sense that when they were in the UNC, even while for the time that they were in opposition, if you wanted to get something done, you need sponsorship for something, money for something, they pick up the phone and they call a contractor. They call a financier. No problem. Pass and you go collect this. Pass and you collect that. All right, we'll drop it off by the office or whatever it is. They could collect whenever. Right? No questions asked, no problems. Money was no problem. For the 10 years that they were in opposition to get money for all kind of thing, it was no problem. The persons when they came to the PNM, they were surprised. It's a totally different dispensation. It's like pulling teeth to get sponsorship for stuff. Unlike in the UNC, where you could just pick up the phone and call a financier, call a contractor. Not so in the PNM. Not so. Difficult. And the person couldn't understand that. Yeah. Mind-blowing for them. So when they want to accuse the PNM of thing and corrupt contractors and all kind of foolishness, rock so with that dotish talk. And I would have heard something mentioned yesterday in General Council which reinforced that same thing that this individual would have said to me. It was said by someone of high rank who made that point. Right? So when they want to accuse the PNM of all kind of corruption and whatnot and so forth, I could tell you the only thing my campaign got, or most of us, our campaigns got from Balize House for that election, was they would have printed the posters that was put up on the posts and stuff, because they wanted uniformity, right? So the party paid for us to go to the photographer And they would have, the same photographer would have taken everybody's pictures and done the editing and so on and created the posters, and the party would have given that to us. That was about it. Everything else we had to fund our own expenses. We had no contractor, we had no financier to kind of say, call this person and they give you money, and call that person. We had to go and beg and hold fundraisers and stuff. So when they want to make the PNM out of being corrupt and how they thief money and how much money the PNM thief, and really, they thief it and spend it where? Where did they spend it? I told you all about all the projects that last administration would have inherited from the People's Partnership. QREP interchange, the hospitals, and so on, how much the People's Partnership had proposed to spend on these projects and how much the PNM spent. And I showed you all how with just one or two of these projects alone, every single member of the PNM cabinet between 2015 to 2020 could have left office as multimillionaires. They could have retired. Just that QREP interchange alone, where over $200 million was saved between the price that the PNM paid for that and what the UNC was proposing to pay. Just that 200 and something million dollar savings alone, each member of the cabinet could have gotten over $10 million apiece. When we check President's house, which was renovated by the last administration, for 89 million as opposed to 169 million, which was proposed by the UNC People's Partnership. That's a savings of $80 million. They could have shared that too. And I kept telling you all they had to do was to say, well, the People's Partnership says 169. All right, we will get the contractor who will do it for 89 and we will say it was 169. We will thief the 80. And what the UNC will do? Come and say that that wasn't the price. When that's the price you all told the population, 169. They could have thief, they didn't do that. Grandy Hospital, Arima Hospital, Point Fortin Hospital, all these hospitals that came in less than what the People's Partnership had proposed. Could have thief all that money. Napa, that the People's Partnership shut down for 2 years and said it would cost over $100 million to fix. Lincoln Douglas, who was then the Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, in a press conference told us that it would cost over $100 million to fix all of the issues with Napa. The PNM came in 2015, and in the space of 6 months, they were able to fix all of the issues for $20 million. 80 less than the minimum that they had told us it would cost. They could have thief that money too. They didn't thief it. So all these things now who thief and thief and thief, they say Sinanan get $150 million for the K-Donner lands. Sinanan get 1 penny near farthing. I was able to ask the former Minister of Finance about that. Not one dime was paid to Sinanan, because the lease expired, the lease that they had for the land expired, and therefore they weren't entitled to anything, and the government had no money to pay anyway, so he got nothing. All over they pay 100, they pay Sinanan 150 million, and all these UNC puppets mimicking and talking that foolishness, right? So coming back to the issue of the boards, what Anil Ram doing there? Even if I might have excused it, even if only had put him as a normal director, but the chairman of the board, knowing this man's past history when it comes to being in companies of this nature, NP is that no fly by no little company. NP is a company that makes money, gives out contracts. We recall the $40 million contract that was given to the Gopals in 2015 to transport fuel. They weren't in that business before, but contract awarded. And all of a sudden, they're into the haulage business to transport fuel. After the then Prime Minister stayed by them for about 3 weeks or so during the election campaign, and after she became Prime Minister, I think she was there for another 2 weeks. And shortly thereafter, we saw that these people were able to get a contract, and she didn't know nothing about it, and so on. 40 million. Look at the kind of money NP have, right? NP that is tasked with responsibility for fuel security in this country. And you've got Anil Ram as the chairman. All right. Where are all the talking heads? Where are they? All the critics. All who had this year about the PNM had Newman George on 2 board, and Newman George was on 3 board, and Noah Garcia and who not. Where y'all? Y'all okay with Anil Ram and his history of being fired from 2 public utilities companies and him chairing NP? Well, all right. So be it. The other board that I have an issue with, TTT, Trinidad and Tobago Television. 3 board members in particular. One, Michael Kerr. One, Anna Munsami. Who's the other one, boy? Let's see if I pull up that here. Just let me get this here. Huh? There's a third person who's on that board as well that I have an issue with. Now, some of you all may not know who Anna Munsami is. Let me remind you all. You all might know her by her alias, Miss Santa Cruz. Right? Miss Santa Cruz. So if you ever listen to the Underground Report, you would know who Miss Santa Cruz is. And for those of you who used to listen to 91.9 between 2014 2015, when the Sunshine Hour was on, you all would know who Miss Santa Cruz is. She used to call in on a program they used to have at lunchtime that was hosted by Piper and DJ Biggs called Showdown. And you already recall every time I come in the evening to talk about it, I used to talk about the show and I used to refer to it as Showdown at what do you call this boy? The Long Branch. I remember that bar with Miss Kitty from Gunsmoke. And Miss Santa Cruz used to call in all the time and had the worst of things and the nastiest of things to say about PNM people. That Miss Santa Cruz, Anna Munsami, is now a director on the board of TTT. What is Anna Munsami's qualifications to be on the board of TTT? What are her qualifications? That she's a rabble-rouser for the UNC? Anna Munsami is as far as I am concerned, is the poster girl for brown nosing, the poster girl for sycophantism. If you want to see a UNC sycophant, find out who Anna Munsami is. The nastiest and most vile things to say, that's Anna Munsami. But they decided to put her as a director on the board of TTT. And I told you all, in the absence of people with integrity and principle, they will have to drain the swamp to find people to put on these boards. And we're seeing it. But let me quote Suzette Lower, not one of my favorite persons, right? Because she had plenty to say when the last administration was in office, but now she's jamming the UNC day and night. So she put up a post today, but that's not the one I wanted to read. It says 100 days in office and what has really happened. A lot, actually. The UNC has installed new state boards populated by non-diverse members, even worse, dunces and party trolls. Ministers are underqualified to hold their posts. Some are still glorified trolls whose sole purpose is trolling social media to silence dissent. 35,000 people unemployed, no crime plan, and an SOE without any credible justification. But one thing has certainly not changed. The 10% promised to public servants still has not been paid, and Kamala Prasad-Bissessa is a liar. But can't say I did not warn you. Prasad-Bissessa is out here threatening to bust people's head as a means to instill fear for engagement in corruption. I suppose leading by example, setting the culture of transparency from top and being a hands-on leader is too much work. That's what happens when you lead by proxy and work 6 hours a week. You cannot ask others to follow your example, so instead you threaten them with do as I say and not as I do. As Suzette Lower. But that's not what I wanted to read. Let me give you her assessment of Anna Munsami, which I endorse. Oh, come on. That's not. Where is it? I don't know why the thing there where this thing disappeared to. Right. Anna Munsami is perhaps one of the vilest, most disgusting trolls on social media, bordering on racist. The language this person uses, the truly repugnant diatribe that comes from a senior citizen as her, requires such a person to be committed to a sanitarium under strict observation. In fact, I think I saw some time ago, once or twice, I saw her in the comments here on YouTube. But Kamala Prasad-Bissessa has instead appointed her to the board of TTT. Prasad-Bissessa continues to make a mockery of our state institutions by appointing friends and trolls to key critical positions on our state boards. What are Munsami's qualifications? What experience does she have? Where has she worked? How does the Prime Minister see her bringing value to this role? Wasn't the Prime Minister just yesterday saying that her government will be held to a higher standard? Anna Munsami has the etiquette of a gutter rat and the experience of one too. That's the expertise that Prasad Bisasa is populating our boards with, utter and complete disgrace, a slap in the face of the young and educated in the UNC. And I couldn't agree more with that, right? Just the few times that I have listened to Anna Munsami, aka Miss Santa Cruz, on several programs, you're all over anything that is pro-UNC, she there, yak, yak, yak. As Dr. Oli is saying, yang, 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 that's Anna Munsami. No quality, she's a retiree. Relax yourself and take care of your grandchildren. But you're up on front and center. You want to they put you on state board to offer what? And here the board, TTT that controls, that has a television station, and TTT that I think that has 2 radio stations. What kind of content can we expect? You all recall between 2010 to 2015, they had a program, the Underground Report used to be there, with same Michael K, aka Mikey K, who is also on that board, Andy Williams, Lennox Smith, and at one time Devon Welsh used to be with them, and then Devon saw the light and he parted ways. But the other 3, they're still together. I remember just the other day, Lennox Smith wanted to know what was going on. We were part of the coalition too, and how we again nothing, and we're looking forward to state boards, and they were told that should the Prime Minister have cause to remove anybody from the Senate, that first preference would be given to them. So don't be surprised very soon if Lennox Smith ends up on a board. You all know who Lennox Smith is. If you don't, I don't really want to encourage you to go and listen to the Underground Report. But he's another big word man. Loves to use big words that out of context, unnecessarily, because they want a song right. But Anna Munsami has no place or no business being on the board of TTT or any other board for that matter. And as a citizen of this country, I consider it to be an affront, and further as a taxpayer, and a big one too, I consider it to be an affront to have people like Anna Munsami sitting on the board of TTT. Is she going to try to influence content? Are they going to try to muzzle on-air presenters who might not be pro-UNC? Is she going to advocate for the comeback of the Underground Report on government radio? There was another program they used to have between 2010 to 15, Marcia Brave Boy. Remember that? The Grenadian Marcia Brave Boy, who used to sing Kamala's praises morning, noon, and night, and had some of the worst things to say about the PNM and Dr. Rowley. Remember her? I haven't heard from her in a while. But she had a program too. They abused government radio between 2010 to 2015. Abused it. Having all of these programs, state-funded, to come and praise the government and curse the opposition at the time. And this woman is now sitting on the board, collecting a board fee every month, because these boards ain't free. This is not volunteerism. Every month she's collecting a board fee to sit on the board and do what? To do what? Like a wooden judge in a Ramgood session? Because she could contribute nothing other than rah-rah, as you just heard me read there from Suzette Lawa. But the cabinet saw it fit to put Anna Munsami on that board. Michael K. What are you doing there? Again, if you listen to the Underground Report, you would know of this individual. I think his name was mentioned in documents that Jack Warner would have produced for live sport. That he has some company that he owned would have been contracted at a cost of $92,000 a month to promote the live sport program and to write up good things about the program and to go and interview some of the participants and so on every month and whatnot. $92,000. It was in the documents. If you go back, I could pull Hansard with Jack Warner, when at the time he was Member of Parliament for Shogunas West, political leader of the ILP, and would have read out several documents about the goings-on in live sport. And that name, Mikey K, was mentioned. $92,000 a month. For what? Rubbish. Because he was reporting all the good things about live sport, but all of the corruption, thievery that was taking place, he didn't know about that. And I think that is where this other one, the counterfeit 1%er, got the idea. Who is now sitting in the Ministry of Housing and who feels greatly underutilized, collecting over $70,000 a month to feel greatly underutilized, such that he has time to attend everything and anything that happens. Everything, he is there. Can't say no to an invitation. But when you're collecting over $70,000 a month to sit down, hold there and twiddle your thumbs, any opportunity that presents itself, you're going to run. Yes, we have anything today. We can't nothing to do in the office. I just waiting until the 29th for payday. I check my account and see the money coming in there. And let me see what I could do for my son. The same son who disowned you, who signed a deed poll to change his last name, and all of a sudden now he has once again embraced the last name of Alexander. Remember the leaked email between himself and Mr. Munilal, where he was proposing a program on TTT called Equal Time from 6 to 7, where the intent of that program was to sanitize disgraced ministers. You know, ministers who get caught in the wrong stand-up, the type that whose head Kamala want to bust. So you bring them onto the program, and we talk and we laugh and kiki and so on, and then you try to show the more humane side of them and that they were wronged and all of this different thing. Or nobody could do it like him. He's the best orator there is. Nobody could sell them like a man. The first person he recommended to bring on the program was Anil Roberts. First, in the leaked email, was to bring on Anil Roberts to deal with room 201. And he would have gotten Anil to admit and say, well, yes, it was me in room 201. But you know that I was on my private time, and so I wasn't on government time and whatever, and I apologized to the nation and to the Prime Minister. And so all that was in the leaked email. So he realized, hey, this man getting 92 grand a month. Well, let me jump on the bandwagon too and see what I could get. Same Mikey K, who, if memory serves me correctly, was arrested for something or the other. I can't remember exactly what it was, and it was claimed that when they put the silver bracelet on him, he soiled himself. Y'all remember that? Today, he is rewarded as a director on the board of TTT, sitting as a host or a co-host of the Underground Report on some internet station, internet channel. So is he and Anna Munsami going to advocate for the Underground Report to come back on TTT? Because I understand as soon as the UNC won, demands were being made by certain other co-hosts of the Underground Report for them to come back. In fact, I heard they went down to TTT to make demands for their program to come back on air. So we wait. We wait to see. Right? They're appointing counselors, UNC counselors to board. So I told you all about Vanessa Kusi, who is the UNC counselor for Kuva West Roystonia, the wife of one of the divers who lost their lives, who was suffering and all of that. So they didn't get no $1 million. Up to now, 2.5 months later, compensation that they were promised during the election campaign, put us in office and we will compensate the families of the divers. Stuart Chong as Prime Minister offered them $1 million. They say, we want that. They're trying to bribe and trying to buy votes, but we want that. Okay, well, all they wanted. UNC came into office. All they get anything yet? You get $1 million? No. You get 100,000? No. You get 10,000? Nothing. What I tell you? We can't compensate because, there are certain legal hurdles that we have to cross. And given that there are lawyers who are associated with the UNC who are involved in this matter, if it is we were to settle, it would look as if it's favoritism. So we will just have to let things take its course. So they get nothing. But all the people who are putting up banners, we will never forget. We will never forget. We will never forget. Like all you forget. Where is the clamoring for the money for these divers? Right? My former colleague who used to sit with me on 91.9, one of them, from time to time he used to be a fill-in host when Dane and Dinan couldn't make it, and they asked me to do the morning show, and I would call on him and say, hey, so those of you who still listen probably know who I'm talking about. Whole time during the election campaign, he posted up on Facebook all kind of thing, bashing the PNM. Right? And the straw that broke the camel's back for him was the issue with the divers and the fact that they were not compensated. And that is unforgivable. Right? Despite the fact, and I tried to reason with him and I told him, yeah, but you understand the circumstances, the situation, why they cannot compensate, because there are certain legal issues. You have the insurance companies who have to settle first, and the government cannot simply come out and tell Paria to compensate, because then essentially they would admit to liability, and that could compromise any case that they find themselves in having to defend themselves if it is any of the families of the divers decide to sue. So they have to tread lightly. He want to hear that thing, the divers, these people suffering. And the other day I asked him, I said, they get paid? He said no, but he's prepared to wait and give the government time. I say, oh, really? You are another one who has developed the patience of Job. always complaining about everything under the last administration for 10 years. I said, one would never believe that you sat with me in the same studio and highlighted the ills and the wrong of that administration between 2010 to 2015. In fact, you sat with me in two studios, 91.9 and Power 102, and highlighted, spoke at length about the wrongdoing that took place between 2010 to 2015. And you come and advocate on your page, your private page, for these people to come back into office. I say, you forget all them things. Oh, that is the past, and that is 2010 to 2015, and we're dealing with 2015 to 2025. Really? But then have the audacity and the temerity to go back and talk about O'Halloran and Privat. I say, you may want to go back to 2010 to 2015, but you're going back to 1970. Something wrong with all you. I say, but don't worry, you will see for yourself. And when it happened, don't bother to contact me to tell me nothing about, I don't want to hear that from all you. Because they didn't fool me. But he is prepared to wait. So if it takes 5 years for them to compensate it, he don't mind. To get compensated, he don't mind that. But you wanted to kill the PNM. Yeah. Rowley and them I care about nobody and the thing and the this and the that, all kind of stupid talk. Where the compensation? They get it? No. They didn't get it. I see they put this counselor from Sawan Lavantel, Amit Suknanan. Can't remember which board they put him on, but he got appointed a couple of days ago. And then there's this other one from, I think, is the Penal Debe Regional Corporation. She's the vice chairman. They put her on a board too. I think she's on the board of Plebdeco or something like that. And you know, the thing is, as I said, they don't have a choice. They're limited in people that they could put, right? But I have heard PNM councillors complain. They said, we got nothing. We were out there in the trenches. We were out there in the trenches fighting for the people. We didn't get no board appointment, no nothing. Right? You see, the UNC does things bold and brazen, and they don't care. And this is one of the things that the issues that supporters and diehard PNM supporters have with the party. This view that the party doesn't take care of its own. And this is something that I have not really been, not necessarily say supportive of, but you know, there are certain things that could have been done. Certain things that, and that is part of the reason why the party is now in opposition. Because there was a feeling among, and I've heard it repeated ad nauseum from PNM supporters, that when the PNM is in office, they want to take care of everybody. And it's their own supporters who will end up getting the end of the stick. Right? So the answer is just doing it. They just put in them. They, who want to talk, let them talk. We here for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, and we ain't calling no early elections. So who vex? If at the end of 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, the population voted so well, it don't matter. Think good. We pocket nice. We would have enjoyed 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. And we'll make sure we secure ourselves and our family and who, right. You all getting more than 200 US yet in the bank? Anything? How that going for you all? Yeah, the last administration, we only giving the US 31% and the 1% still getting it. Cars still coming in the country, yeah? And any problems with cars coming in? All the same things that was coming into the country before. The food import bill is still $7 billion. That hasn't gone down. But you know what the supporters of UNC will tell you? Yeah, well, 3 months is not enough. 3 months is, remember they said they will fix crime in 6. 3.5 gone. They still have 2.5 months. Right? They said 6, eh? So when at the end of 6, don't come and tell us 6 is not enough. They said 6. But state of emergency, they said, had nothing to do with the crime situation in the country. It had a specific purpose, and that purpose was to deal with a threat that the intelligence agencies uncovered, which was, again, reference was made to the 1990 coup and what was uncovered. Again, the 1990 coup, as we were told in 2011, would have made the 1990 coup look like a tea party. John Sandy told us that. Don't forget that. They come back and make reference again. We hear about rocket launcher, and they were going to blow up half of the AG's office, and they had threatened the lives of several public officials, and all of these different things, assassination plot against the prime minister. That is what it had to deal with. It had nothing to do with the murders taking place in the country. It had nothing to do with the kidnappings. It had nothing to do with home invasions. None of these things. Those things were separate and apart. We had a separate crime plan for that. So no, the state of emergency is not the government's crime plan. Even though citizens were saying that, that wasn't the crime plan. But in the last 2 weeks, we hear the prime minister saying over and over, the SOE has resulted in, we see, in success because the murder rate is down 34% year to date. We heard Saddam Hussein in that ridiculous press conference that he and Alexander had on Friday, where they sought to inform the population that the Independence Day parade was cancelled, the fireworks was cancelled, and instead is to be replaced by a day of prayer and fast and pray and what is boy? Or whatever, prayer and reflection or whatever it is, right? Yes, because we need to pray to treat with the crime situation. So you just tell me, murders down 34% year to date. So we have been seeing some successes with the SOE, but the SOE was not supposed to be for that. If you tell me the SOE is to deal with a particular situation, then that is the yardstick by which you are supposed to measure the success of the SOE. You said there was this big plot to destabilize the country, that this big plot to take out certain high public officials and so on. That is the yardstick you're supposed to measure by. Don't come to tell me nothing about murders down 34% year to date. That wasn't because of you all. That started since earlier on this year with the first state of emergency that was implemented by the last administration on the 30th of December. And the statistics, the data is there. Everybody, I spoke about that before the election. The end of April, the PNM was in office until the 30th of April. This new administration came in on the 1st of May when Kamala Persad-Bissessar and John Jeremy were sworn in, and the Prime Minister and the Attorney General constitutes the cabinet. So up until the 30th of April, the difference in murders from last year to this year, there was a differential of about, it's either 50 something or 60 something murders less this year than last year. And that happened because of the state of emergency. But you know what's the hypocrisy and the dishonesty with these people? At the end of that state of emergency, Saddam, Munilal, Kamla, all of them told us that the state of emergency was a failure. It was a failure. But today, you're coming to tell us your state of emergency was a success, not because of any of the plot that you claim you're foiling. No. It was a success because the murder rate is down 34% year to date, year on year, as opposed to what it was last year. That is the success. So the same success that was experienced under the last, no, that state of emergency was a failure. The fact that murders were down, no, that didn't constitute a success. But they're in office now and quoting the same statistics to tell you that this state of emergency is a success. You see, you could fool the UNC. You can't fool the rest of us. We know that's what we were saying. That was your crime plan. Because you realized, hey, murders down. State of emergency. Then we do the same thing. Because every day is murder. Every single day, murders galloping. All of a sudden, you have an upsurge in kidnappings. And they go on social media. They're on social media. They're on Facebook. They see in the comments and people say, well, what's going on? And the UNC say when they come in office, crime supposed to go away. Every day, what Alexander doing? What Alexander doing? What Sturge doing? What Kamala doing? That's where the crime plan. All they say. And they realize, hey, the public's patience with us is wearing thin. We need to do something to treat with this crime. And what's the best thing to do? Call a state of emergency. And the population saying, well, there's the crime plan. And they say, no, that's not the crime plan. What is the crime plan? Because you should be able to attribute the decline in murders year to date, year on year, to something else that you all did in the last 3.5 months. Because if the only thing you could point to is the state of emergency, then it says you're a damn failure. You can't tell me, well, we implemented this, we did that, we implemented the other and the next, and this is why. No, it's only because of the state of emergency. So had the state of emergency not been implemented on the 18th of July, the murder rate would have been higher. Because nothing else was done. They've spoken to nothing else and pointed to nothing else that they did in the last 3.5 months that they could attribute to the decline in crime. And when I say crime, not just murders, because they're telling you all the other major crimes, the statistics show, the figures are down year on year. What caused that? You all told us between the last 10 years, poverty and crime linked. But when people poor and they have no money and they can't feed their families and they can't put food on the table and they can't pay their bills, they turn their life a crime. You all fired 35,000 of the poorest people in this country. That contributed to the reduction in crime? Did it? Based on their logic, it shouldn't have. Based on their logic. How many jobs have they created? They boasting, the supporters beating the chest. They have a TSTT have a program, a 3-week program where they're training 600 young people in a variety of different areas in customer service and IT and these different things, right? 3 weeks, 600 people. Hey, finally, a government with vision. I read in some of these comments and the only thing I do is pelt my phone. These UNC supporters could give you an aneurysm with the depth of their stupidity. Yes, man. Finally, that is a good thing. When the Lord knew what he was doing when the UNC win. When UNC wins, everybody wins. Look, 600 young people, 3 weeks. A 3-week training program. Yes, finally. A government that cares for the youth. All you asleep. All you all wonder, Rock? You all were pulling a Rip Van Winkle 20 years asleep or in the 10 years asleep. Because we had, for the last 5 years, a ministry called the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. An entire ministry that was dedicated to young people. An entire ministry that was dedicated to the youth. With over 40 programs that was paying a stipend. Over 40 programs ranging from 6 months to 2 years. Not 3 weeks. Not 3 weeks. What could you learn in 3 weeks that could give you the experience that you need when you put on your resume? Served as an apprentice or a trainee in B-Mobile for 3 weeks. August 2025 to August 2025. Really? And that is supposed to impress an employer. What? You work for 3 weeks in TSTT? Oh my gosh, we need to bring you in at middle-level management. That is what was needed. But you shut down a whole ministry where you had people were learning things like how to operate a crane. Yes, crane. You could get that skill set. I personally know somebody who benefited from training in that program and was able to go abroad and get work in the United States operating crane. But you'll get a 3 weeks in B-Mobile in customer service and you could apply for work in the US end. We had people under the Fuse program with T and Tech learning to do work like linesmen and stuff, right? So you could, people retiring every month, in T and Tech. They need replacements. Those people getting these skill sets, learning to be technicians, electricians, refrigeration and air conditioning, all these different things people were learning. They had the other one called, I can't remember if it was pipe or something, so where they were learning to do plumbing and all of these different things and getting paid to do it. 6 months to 2 years. There the UNC, PNM doing nothing for the youth. PNM care about the youth. Youth in Agriculture Homestead Program. 2 years training in agriculture. You graduate 2 acres of land, $20,000. A starter home, 2-bedroom starter home. You get in your farmer's license and all of these different things. Nah, PNM care about the youth. Nothing for the youth. Yeah? But a 3-week program, B-Mobile. Yes, finally, boy. Yes, we get a prime minister who dedicated and cares about the youth. Not like that last administration. And these people could vote. All 358,000 of them was able to vote. And today talking this rubbish. But as I always say, for them, less is more. So 3 weeks training, better than 6 months, better than 1 year, better than 2 years. 3 weeks. Just like when they were in office the first time. Color me orange, 3 months, $69 a day to paint buildings. Yes, and you applaud that. Shut down CCC. Right now, my part is in abeyance. I don't know what it is happening there. All of the programs under the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, they can't decide yet what they're going to do with that. So that too in abeyance. All these people who were coming up to graduate don't know if they're going to graduate, if they wasted the last 2 years of their life. And the government has nothing to say. No direction. So just sit down, relax, and wait until. So if it takes us a whole year, that is their new modus operandi. CPEP, it could take 6 months, it could take 9, it could take a year. So just relax, give us time to figure it out. And whenever we figure it out, well, we'll let all you know. But in the meantime, feel free to look for alternative employment. And if it is that you get a work somewhere else, when we decide to start back the program, well, if you already have a work, well, you don't want to come back to the program. So that allows us now to hire our contractors so they can hire their people and we don't have to feel bad. And people praising that. 3 weeks program. So what will not happen after the 3 weeks ends? For those who probably in school and who might go back to school, the rest of you all, what are you going to do? Go back home and sit down and twiddle your thumbs and look for work? Just remember the government put a freeze on hiring in the public service. Put a freeze. So we don't hire nobody. We're going to create 55,000 jobs, but we need to fire 35,000 first. Right? We need to destroy 35,000 jobs first. Give us time to figure out how we're going to create the 55,000. They want to save money. That's what they're telling us. Right? So I went to Balize House yesterday for General Counsel. When I got there, I was handed this envelope. Right? And in that envelope had this invitation. Okay? This invitation from Her Excellency the President. And it reads, the President and members of the Combined Services Officers Mess invite Mr. Dominic Romain MP to the toast the 63rd anniversary of the independence of Trinidad and Tobago at the National Academy for the Performing Arts, Queen's Park, Port of Spain, Sunday, 31st August 2025 at 10 a.m. Please RSVP for admission by invitation only. Her Excellency arrives at 9:55 a.m. Dress, uniform, lounge suit. Regrettably, children are unable to attend. Go to www.toast.mil.tt, ID number 1022. So Her Excellency had already started the process of putting things in place for the toast. So when they finish, when they leave the savannah, after the parade, they go across the Napa and they have the toast and so on. Of course, but they only get anything to drink, you get anything to eat too. You know, and persons who is getting a little work when they have events at Napa, they get a little N, as we say, you get a little PH. Hey, we're looking for people, you're available that day? Yeah, come out here, make a little extra money now. We know things stuff these days. So you can come and all these people who are looking forward to that, will make a little change month and I go pay a bill or two. Nope, forget that. You better look for money elsewhere to pay that bill. But this is just a piece of cardboard now. This is just a souvenir. My first invitation to the toast. I could probably frame it. I feel I would do that. I'll frame it and put it up on the wall. My first. Yeah. That's a waste of time. So I imagine money would have been spent to do this, right? Looking nice, huh? Paper that was used and so on. Yeah. And I'm sure quite a few of these would have gone out. Money spent. But in the press conference Friday, they asked Saddam, so have any contractors been engaged? Because you know the independence is just 2 weeks away. And so they start to make preparations earlier. Don't wait until 2 days before to engage contractors and so on, because they need to know how many people they're catering for. They need to start putting things together and organizing and all of these different things. Right? No contractors, however. Nobody has contacted us. How the hell do you expect them to contact you? You made the announcement Friday. You expect them to contact you Friday, Saddam? People heard it in the wind. You all came and they did your press conference late in the evening to confirm. So prior to your press conference, it was just rumored. All right? We're hearing that, but nothing official came from anybody in the government. Hey? So after 5 or so, you come with your press conference now, so it's official. You expected to hear from the contractors who would have been engaged before that, Saddam, when there was nothing official before? No contractors. Nobody has come to us. The reporter asked the question several times. Well, I'm pretty sure contractors would already have been engaged. by Her Excellency, the Office of Her Excellency, to arrange for that event. And I understand that the process or the procedure is that after that toast, you would have had the various armed forces, contingents of the armed forces would have their own toast. So you have the police have their toast down at the barracks, I think, and then I think there's another toast that takes place with the defense force, and all of these different people who would have started putting things in place, who would have already engaged some of the contractors, who would have provided food, provided drink, the catering, and all of these different things. Because I mean, it's the police and the army and whoever else would have been part of the parade. They've been practicing for a little while now, because there was the anticipation that this thing was going to happen. And it's not every year you turn 63. You turn 63 once. But that is of no significance to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Because they come and they give you a cock and bull story. Well, you know, it's because of the state of emergency and the threat, and you will have the prime minister and the president and the all members of the government and the opposition will be there. So they assume we would be there. But it is good that they could say members of the opposition, because the last administration couldn't say that. All right? The last administration couldn't say that. But they have confidence that we would have been there, because we are not like them. We are not going to boycott because we're not in office, as they did for 10 years. It's only last year for the first time, I think you see about 5 of them, if memory serves me correctly. I think Wade Mark was there, Rudy and Darsing was there, David Lee, and a couple others. It was just about 5 of them I counted from the opposition who presented themselves last year for the first time. All right? But for the other 9 years, they didn't see it fit. For the other 8 years or so, they didn't see it fit to show up. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, leading the pack. Now there's speculation. You know, the parade starts, so the prime minister would have to get there about 7:30 and so on. That kind of early for her to get up. So to leave, to get there for 7:30, she would have probably had to get about 5 o'clock. The morning to get ready and to do her hair and the makeup and all. She might have to get up 4 o'clock. So to get up so early, to prep, to put on her face and all of that, do up the hair and all of this is different thing. To get there for that early. Yeah. And she's not too inclined to stay. And I remember they told us that the prime minister's residence is still unfit for habitation, right? So she can't stay there overnight, because, hey, if I stay there overnight, they'll want to know, well, why can't I just stay there full time as the previous prime minister did? So in order for me to continue this facade, that I have to stay at my home in Philippines because the residence is uninhabitable, I can't stay there at all. So she can't overnight there. But go in the Hyatt. There's a facility that is afforded to us members of parliament. Go in the Hyatt. You don't want to go in the prime minister. Go by the Radisson, not the Radisson, sorry. The Bricks. Go and spend the night there. So you don't need to get up that early. But that's the speculation. That's probably the reason why. Then there's also the speculation that they're concerned that a lot of the people who attend the parade are PNM supporters, and that she and her ministers would have been booed. So all this facade they want to create that is so popular and all, and they would have she wasn't prepared to be booed, especially since within recent times, the leader of the opposition has been receiving, when she goes to certain events and it's announced that she's there, the crowd would go up in an uproar, you know, as opposed to when Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. So do we risk that prime minister, you know, that has been the norm. As soon as the prime minister arrives and he come out of the car, Dr. Rowley, yes, you never be hearing loud cheers and clap and thing and all that. So 3 months, 3.5 months, 4 months into office, and you're getting booed. There was probably a concern that maybe the PNM might have mobilized CPF workers and URP workers and forestry workers to come down and boo. We weren't planning any such thing. So let me just tell all of that one time. So you see this talk about you have all of these people in the same place one time, and that poses a security risk and is a threat, and we are in a state of emergency, and that you would have so much of the assets of the national security apparatus would be in one place, and to risk that and so on. But Walia said the people who the intelligence identified as being chief cook and bottle washer in this plot, that they have been neutralized. That's what the commissioner of police said just last week. The threat has been neutralized. So what is the concern now? So the threat wasn't neutralized then, because the people that you all claimed were behind this plot, if they have been neutralized, then why is there still a concern that they could cause ruction if they're neutralized? More than a month now. Tomorrow makes it 1 month since the state of emergency was declared. All the players in the prison, Rajai and who else that you will identify as being the plotters, and all them moved to Stobbles Bay and Tetron. Up to now, 1 month later, not one man ain't get charged. They're in custody. You also the intelligence identified these people as being part of the plot, but not one charge has been laid against any of these men in a whole month. Intelligence, one would assume, would provide evidence to say, yes, this one and that one involved, but a whole month later, nobody ain't get charged. The rocket launcher that was supposed to be used to blow up the AG's office has not been retrieved. Not a grenade, not a gun. Nobody has appeared before the court in a whole month who we were told the intelligence identified as being part of this plot. Whole month later, not a man ain't get charged. But we're supposed to believe what we were told, right? This government has a serious credibility issue. Then we hear, well, you know, it is to save money because it's millions of dollars would have been spent on the fireworks because certain state entities, state enterprises would have been sponsoring. So we hear UDCOT was supposed to sponsor 700,000. I don't know, NLCB might have put out some money, and who else are FCB? Whoever else would have put out some money as well to sponsor a once-a-year event. The only time for the year that the state sponsors fireworks. Right? The only time. This event, and you see, they are so unpatriotic. And they don't like when we accuse them of being unpatriotic. They, in their minds, have confined independence to a parade, fireworks. That's it. That's it. But you see, because they're not accustomed attending the parade, they're not accustomed attending the after parade. When citizens line the streets from the savannah going all the way down Tragrit Road and going down to the barracks and so on, and you see people jumping and thing, and they dressed up in the red, white, and black, in the full red, who come out in their regalia, the colors, because they're proud to be Trini. The one time for the year when you see people dressed up in the country's colors, 31st of August, right? Proud to be Trini. People, they couldn't care if it's PNM, UNC, whoever. Political affiliation doesn't matter. Race, class, creed, color, don't matter. Everybody come out on that day, right? So that they could see, hey, but look, people enjoy when you see the helicopters flying over, the amount of noise that people make. People look forward to bringing the children out to see the police on the motorcycle there. When the fire truck come and they let go the water and so on, yeah, people enjoy themselves. Yes, they feel that sense of pride. But you see, when you're not accustomed being a part of that, you can't understand it. You cannot appreciate it, so it doesn't matter to you. You think it's just, whatever. It's just a parade. I'm seeing people posting nonsense, trying to defend this rubbish on Facebook, talking about this just a wine and jam. It's an excuse for people to just come out and wine and jam and have a good time and party. If that is how you want to contextualize independence, that's on you. If you don't have appreciation and who want to go deep and talk about colonialism and all that kind of thing and be still shackled and shackles at the mind, oh gosh, ease us up with that triple talk now. Ease us up with that now. Nobody don't want to go philosophical. Well, let's save that for when you're having discussions over cheese and wine with your friends. Miss us with our BS, please. Because people just want to enjoy the thing in the simplest of ways. They don't need to go to a lecture and sit down and hear somebody and they fall in asleep on themselves. They hear somebody come and articulate. They're not interested in that. Allow the people to enjoy the parade, enjoy the day as they normally do. As if, imagine you have other countries, big countries like the United States of America, they don't have a parade. There's only the other day they had Donald Trump had some parade, I think, on his birthday and something else, and yeah, we saw how that turned out. But we celebrate in a unique way. The United States and other countries, the biggest thing that they do is their fireworks. So we take it a step further to be able to provide, because not everybody is going to get to go to the toast, as you see, by invitation only. Right? So it's not every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago will be able to dress up and go to Napa. There's only certain people. So the ordinary man who is not going to get one of these invitations, that is how he enjoys the day. That is how she enjoys the day. They're not going to get an invitation to go to the barracks. They're not going to get an invitation to go to the police mess or whatever it is. They're not going to get those invitations. Right? They're not going to get a glass with expensive wine and champagne and so on to drink, and they could eat of the finest. They're not going to get to participate in that. So allow them now. the parade, the fireworks, that is their opportunity. So when everybody else, the top tier, right? The who's who and the upper echelons of society dress up in their fancy wear and eating and drinking the best in certain secluded areas and so on and whatnot. Yes, how you're going? Yes. The ordinary man do have that opportunity to benefit from the coffers of the state because it's taxpayers' money paying for that. You see this? And what's happening in Napa and wherever else, taxpayers' money paying for that. But the majority of these taxpayers not going to participate in that. So give them something now. The parade, that is how they get a little piece of the pie. The fireworks, that is how they get a little piece of the pie. But they must get nothing. Nothing. So you come in to talk about a day of prayer and reflection. And what you're going to do, you're probably going to invite a set of religious leaders to come to the diplomatic center, and they put out an invitation, you invite a set of people to come, your people, and they will come, and you always sit down, and after everybody come and say they pray and so on, we break off. How are we going to do? We will toast in the Prime Minister's residence. We will eat the good food. Those who get invitation. Yeah. So they will still get to eat, to enjoy it, to enjoy a little of the taxpayers' money. But the majority of the citizens tell us, let's stay home and pray. You all could look at it on the television. You can't get an invitation to come. You could stay home, put on your TV, and watch. Yeah? And whichever religious denomination you belong to, when that religious leader comes on to speak, well, you could take it in and enjoy yourself. And then afterwards, well, right. Even if the private sector says, well, here what? The state is not willing to put out the money, but given the fact that this is independence and we want to be patriotic corporate citizens and we want to uphold corporate social responsibility, we will sponsor the fireworks. As, for instance, the same 1% that they always bad talking. And Samakal did that some years ago. Big fireworks. They sponsored the fireworks in the savannah. I think it may have very well been for the 60th anniversary. I think it was or something, so the 50th. I can't remember which one it was. But I recall they would have sponsored. They come now to tell you, well, you had to get permit, and it has to be silent fireworks. So you tie the hands of even the private sector. If you want to talk about saving money, okay, fine. You don't want to pay for it. You say that money could be better spent to give to the police for them to continue operations with respect to dealing with crime and so on. I am not aware that it's that easy because if the money was allocated for other things, and I thought Parliament is supposed to approve. So when we approve certain money is to be spent on certain things, you can't just take the money and go and spend it elsewhere. But they know they could train up people with that choppy talk. But you tie the hands of even the private sector, so they can't even say, well, we'll spend some money to have a fireworks, something, and if not the savannah, we'll have it somewhere else. It has to be silent. 2 weeks before. 2 weeks before Independence Day. So you expect Mr. Abraham of Fireworks, or whoever else are the proprietors of fireworks, that in 2 weeks, they could go and get silent fireworks, order it, and bring it in the country, right? Because it's so easy. Yeah, that easy, in the space of 2 weeks. So all these fireworks that these people would have brought in, anticipating that it would have been purchased, all of these persons who will set up their little spot, you know, they have these tents all over the place selling the fireworks and the like, and they make a little kakada. These vendors now, you know, they invest their little money, they buy some fireworks, and you see you go in the grocery and in the corner in the car park, you see the fireworks tent or whoever, and you go there and you buy your stuff. No money for them. The vendors who would make a little change at the side of the road, selling, you know, the CPAP worker now, who had a job and no longer has a job, and who tell themselves, well, all right, well, I'll buy 2-3 cases of water or a few cases of water and whatnot, a couple cases of Coca-Cola, get one of those little barrels, or even I'll get two styrofoam containers, and I'll set up at the side of the road, and maybe I could sell something and make a little money to be able to buy some books or to buy some school supplies for my child, since I don't have a job and I don't know when I'm going to get one back because the government clueless. So I could make a little change that way, right? But the same person who, as I mentioned, was probably looking forward to getting a little N as an usher or a server on the date for one of these events. All the different regional corporations who would have been having their fireworks, and Raymond Borough Corporation might have had, Tunapuna Piako might have had something in the Etihad grounds or whatever it is, you know. Again, the little vendors come out and peddling this stuff to make a little change, to make ends meet. You deprive all of them of that. You know why? Because come the end of the month, the 29th, Kamala's salary, both salaries, her salary as Prime Minister and as Member of Parliament, going into her account. Alexander, both salaries, salary as Minister of Homeland Security and Member of Parliament for Tunapuna, his salary is going into his account. Winster's salary is going into his account. Saddam Hussein's salary is going into his account. They have no problems. All their bills paid, and they have considerable monies left over. Right? So they don't have the worries and the stresses that the CPAP worker has, the forestry worker has, the URP. They don't know that. And will not know that. Ever. They will not. Right? Because at the end of the 5 years, they have money to get. They have pension to collect. Whatever else. All the other perks. So they cannot commiserate. And imagine some of their own constituents are coming to me for help. Why? Because as I told persons, I said, the staff that I'm hiring in my office, I'm not just hiring people because they need a work. I'm hiring people who bring something to the table. What do I mean by that? I want people who are resourceful, who can pick up the phone and make a call if somebody comes to see me and they have an issue, right, that I may not be able to treat with directly because I am still new to this. But because you were there before, you would have made connections working with the previous MP. You can pick up the phone and call, hey, I have this person looking for a job. I have this person looking for this. That's what I'm looking for. Okay? Because in opposition, you don't have resources. You have to beg. So my office, we were able to form a connection with somebody who does recruiting for staff for some of the premier hotels in the country. Right? And we were able to find employment for a few people because one of my office staff happens to know this individual. Somebody came in, when we looked at their resume, we saw that the person had experience with respect to being a line cook and whatnot in a hotel. And we were able to reach out to the individual and the person said, well, yeah, the person came to see me Tuesday and the following Monday, he reported for work at the Hyatt, right? And that same person, I said, well, if I have anybody else, who, so we were able to facilitate and get jobs for a few people, some of whom are former CPF workers and the like. So, they're going to pick up your phone and call a friend and say, yeah, I went by the MP and he get you. I think some of them come and tell me that they're going to send a friend by me. Why are you doing that? If your friend is in my constituent, no problem. Send them. But you're calling your friend from Karen East, your friend from Shabonas West, your friend from Tabakit, to tell them, come by me. I sending you back by your MP. Sorry, I want to help. But I sending you back. Your MP contributed to you being out of work. They have a responsibility to help you. So as much as I want to help you, I cannot deprive my constituents who voted for me and who helped me to be in that position to give you what I could give to them. They come first. I'm sorry. Right? Your MP needs to be innovative. Your MP is in government. They could pick up the phone and call the colleague, and they could hire people if their MPs are minister, since the majority, most if not all of them are ministers. They could hire people in their ministry. I don't have that facility. So any little opportunity that presents itself for me to help my constituents, that is where my first priority lies. And after that, we can see what can happen. So they create a problem. And we, the 13 of us who have no resources, we are expected to do their work? No, you're not serious. You're not serious. So coming back to the issue of, they didn't even have the decency to consult Her Excellency to tell her, hey, we didn't have anything again. Even though on Friday, and here they said, when I tell you these people have a serious credibility problem, if Dotish was a party. So they have a press conference, they put Alexander on the spot. He didn't have a prepared speech, so he's talking off his head. And they want to say things to impress people. So this was planned a long time ago, right? This was planned a long time ago. So of course you hear that and you think, so it's a while now you all have planned to cancel the parade and to cancel the Independence Day celebrations. But you didn't see it fit to inform Her Excellency, because if you had informed Her Excellency, I wouldn't have gotten this. So Given the fact that Her Excellency would have started the process of putting things in place for this event, she would have contacted, I imagine, her office rather, would have contacted certain vendors, would have spent money to procure certain things, to order certain things for this event. What is going to happen to them? How are they going to get back this money that no doubt they would have put out already? Because you don't wait until 1 week or 2 days before the event to procure these things. You have to start making your calls because it's not you alone. Your event is not the sole event. And that would have taken plan. I'm sure you would have had other state entities that normally have these that might have reached out to the very same vendor. So to make sure you have sufficient supplies for all of these events, you need to put things in place and start making calls and start ordering stuff. Now, nothing is happening. So what's going to happen with that person? You're going to reimburse them, compensate them for that? Money spent for this. What's going to happen there? You couldn't care, as Saddam said. Well, we are not concerned about the profits, the security of the nation. We are not concerned about the profits of one person when it comes to the security of the nation or something like that. Well, I bet if that one person was a UNC financier, we would hear something different, right? All the millions that they spent for the election, contractors had to get payback, right? What's going on here? Right. And we made that point. There's millions and millions of dollars spent. These people didn't earn all of these millions to just spend it on an election campaign and just because. So who does that? Who said, yeah, whole 5 million, whole 2 million. These people have been looking for contracts. They're looking for contracts every single day because they want to make more money and more money and more money. They didn't go and say, well, okay, well, let me get a contract and I make 2 million and I put in on this 2 million to get the UNC for election. No. The people looking for money because they want to live the best life. So when you put out 5 million, you do so with the expectation that if they win, you're going to get back much more than that. And you know how to play the field. So regardless of which government is in power, you know you will get contracts because you are in a field where the number of contractors are limited. So when it comes to road paving, when they're talking nonsense about all the same contractors with the PNMSA when the UNC was in power, it's only so many. It's Junior Sami, Kusal, Calco. You could name them, Danny's, and maybe 1 or 2 others. So when it is that the pool of contractors who pave in road is limited, what do you expect? Regardless of whichever government is in power, these people know they're going to get money because road have to pave, and we are the people who have the equipment, we are the people who have the expertise, and it have nobody else to go to. So it doesn't matter. So this nonsense, Miss Lady talking about you're voting with PNM contractors and your boss head and all kind of foolishness. Miss us with that rubbish. Please. You ain't bossing no head. You throw that out there because you know that the sycophant's going to lap it up. Yes, that is a strong leader. And Rowley didn't want to fire nobody. Rowley didn't have cause to fire nobody. And who had to be fired was fired. Darrell Smith was fired. Right? Marlene McDonald was fired. Dr. Rowley, I know what's the Kamala said that. And they're praising her for being a strong leader. All of these armchair analysts, all of a sudden, they ain't see no wrong with this government. All of them coming out of the hole to yap. Praising Prasad Bisesa. This is a different Kamala Prasad Bisesa. She's a strong leader and so on. She has read the right after her ministers. But you all seem to forget very early on, Dr. Rowley did the same thing. When he told his ministers, if all you get to yourself in any kind of wrong, stand up, you're on your own. How many times have we heard Dr. Rowley tell his ministers, do not fall in love with office? Don't. When it is you told them, well, they come into office, you want to buy fancy car and they want to buy expensive car, do not take any loan, low interest loan from the parliament. Go to the bank, take a loan from the bank, you're making enough money. Do not tie up taxpayers' money that could be used for the benefit of taxpayers to come and see you're taking a loan to buy any car. But they forget that. All these things were said. The amount of praises that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa getting for that one statement. None of them came out to praise Dr. Rowley for that. Nope. Not at all. And he repeated it on numerous occasions. But she simply has to say once, hey, our boss all you want to be in Hyatt and so on. So you know what? You have spies in Hyatt. So when all you need to meet, You know what to do. Don't go to the Hyatt. Don't go in public places where people could see and take pictures. We don't give the PNM evidence. All right? You know, they had to do these things, go in private. Could go by somebody's house. You know, like 2010 to 2015 when I was going by people's house and who had house in some apartment in by Millennium Lakes there or whatever it is, big shot area. Do that. Do it discreetly. We know the contractors who spent millions on our campaign need to be paid back. But if people see you sit down in public, drinking the best of this and the best of that, and while we telling the population we don't have money, we can't pay the 10% to the public servants, and we can't do that. We will not repeat what we say the PNM used to do. All right? You can't come and tell people you're getting them 4%, but then you take 47 months, what they say. How we gonna look? All right? So we can't be telling people we're under a state of emergency or whatever it is. We have to, the government is trying to be prudent, and we cut in here and we cut in here and we sending home people to save money. And then they see all this sit down in the Hyatt drinking Chardonnay and Moet and all of these different things. How that look in? Whether it is coming from your salary or they don't know that, they will assume that because the Hyatt is owned by the government, this is why they're frequenting the Hyatt and you're not going elsewhere that the government don't own. So you have to do your thing, do it discreetly. Private places where nobody can see. Try and get a decoy car and nobody don't need to know whether that is, hey, look this one car, look that one car, so this one car going inside it. Do like what Mr. Owner used to do. Get a TIDA. Right? Nobody expecting to see a government minister in a TIDA. Right? So jump in your TIDA, or whatever your wet man, or your note, or your aqua. Nobody say they say aqua driving them. Nah, they may think I'm no minister. Go and drive inside and handle your stories. Yeah? Do that. She don't want the headache. She's not 59 anymore. She's 73. She has issues with high blood pressure, diabetes. I know this thing to also bring on issues with kidney and stuff and so on. I saw Mr. Hines put out something today. I don't know that. I don't do woman health circumstance. All I know is, yeah, she's not in the best of health, despite her representations otherwise. So she really don't need a headache of having to deal with that. And people call it, hey, tell this one, tell that one, be careful, because I see them and they're always there. Understand? Ian Allen say he see one or two of them there too. So a few of them there. I don't frequent, I don't have those privileges. Right? The only time I go to Hyatt is when there's an event held by an association or something that I'm a part of, and I get an invitation. But otherwise to that, you will not see me in Hyatt. Right? I never get invited to sit down in nobody corner to sip on nothing. That's not me. Right? And I've not heard any of my colleagues on the opposition bench find themselves in that position either. But they don't have money. They want to save money for the Independence Parade, and they want to save money on the fireworks, right? Because the public purse, and they're protecting the public purse. But in the last 2 weeks, we've had events that, to my mind, were unnecessary at times, certain cost money. First off, that signing ceremony for the production sharing contract between ExxonMobil and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, we would know under the last administration, when contracts had to be signed, if it was done in public, most times it wasn't, but if it was done in public, you would not see a whole live presentation. You might just see a few pictures afterwards or some video footage on the evening news. Or the ministry might post up some video footage that was taken by some staff member with their phone or something and posted. It wasn't a big ceremony, lavish ceremony where you invite the marish and the parish, every member of the government, whether they be in the lower upper house and councillors and chairmen of boards and directors and board. You invite everybody to come to the same diplomatic center that we were told a couple of months ago was not in a condition to be used. That the former prime minister left the place in a mess. But now they want to come and tell us, well, but we were able to fix. Now, remember, we were told 5 million, eh? 5 million is what we heard from Ms. Rock when she was put on the spot by the deputy prime minister. And a video being filmed, I think, by Nicholas Morris to get Ms. Rock to say, well, repairs need to be done on $5 million. They were able to find money to fix that in time for Prime Minister Moody. All right? They held an event for Prime Minister Modi, cost almost $1 million. That was okay. And they want to tell you, well, that money was, nothing was wrong with spending that because we get back, what we got for it was more than what we spent because we got some dialysis machines, we got 2,000 laptops, and some other commitments as the case may be. So chalk and cheese. But that was okay. It was an investment. But as I told you all last week, we're still in deficit because we had to add this 900 and something thousand, $1 million to the 15 point whatever million was spent between in 2012 or thereabout when Mrs. Prasad Visesa went to India and we got nothing from that trip. So that was 16 million. So when we minus the cost of the dialysis machines, the cost of the laptops, and whatever else or let's say all they get, we're still in a deficit. Right? As we counting down from 16 million come down. So I'm pretty sure we didn't get $16 million worth of stuff. But anyway. So they're looking to save money because this is a responsible government and we are not going to squander the money from the public purse. But you spend money for this signing ceremony, right? We saw the video footage. Everybody and the dog was there. And I'm certain they didn't come and left with their palate dry. Certain there would have been refreshments, there would have been food, and there would have been drink, copious amounts. In fact, all the complaints when Pairara wheeled out the trolley, when they first came into office, they say, look how much alcohol was left by the last administration. Well, the amount of functions they've had at the Prime Minister's residence, and then that probably done. Because you know how they drink, right? They are not sippers, they are gulpers. And they are go back and go back and go back, refill. So I wouldn't be surprised if every single bottle, if they have any leftover, well, rest assured by the next event they have there, it would be finished. They would need to replenish stocks. But you had that event, that cost money. You had this event for the 3-week internship program for B-Mobile was also hosted at the Prime Minister's residence for 600 young people who were there, plus everybody else who they normally invite. I'm pretty certain that there would have been refreshments provided. They would have had to spend money to rent chairs and table and all them kind of thing because you don't have all those things at the diplomatic center. And you had to put up the decorations and all, make the place look good now. So money had to spend for that too. But that's okay. That was necessary. And that was necessary. And then there was some other event that they had there too. So that's 3 events so far. Can't remember what the other one is. But every time you all have these events, right? For Emancipation Day, don't forget, Michelle Benjamin complaining about how much money given to the Emancipation Support Committee. Yeah, all this money. But if you see them up in the VIP lounge, the NCC VIP lounge, drinking the best and eating the best, all the stragglers, all the activists, the hungry mouth activists who were talking for them on social media and now all over the place crying and begging because they ain't getting nothing. They were supposed to win and they ain't win yet. They still were wondering 3.5 months later and they're still waiting to win. All of them would have picked up on the side of the road. Yeah, they tell them, come up in the savannah, come upstairs. Take pictures. They post it up. They're happy to post it up if you see them. Yes, they're toasting, drinking the best and eating the best. Yeah, well, because you talk for the government, and some of them still talking. But come upstairs now. You never come inside here before. Well, don't worry. You will get accustomed to it for the next 5 years. Any event that happens in the savannah and the Prime Minister here, well, you come upstairs, eat and drink the best. Eat and drink the best. Right. But we have money. You're trying to save taxpayers' money. That is important. Unnecessary functions. Unnecessary functions. Everything for them is a show and a camera. So every minister now, you go on the page, there's a video with them coming out of the back seat of a Prado. So I see Michelle Benjamin. They had, yes, that's the other thing. NCC had the launch of Carnival on Friday night. Money spent for that in Napa, right? And it wasn't open to the general public. Special invitation. And I'm pretty sure that, again, people didn't leave there with their beak dry. So there would have been food and refreshments for all of the guests. Super Blue was there and whoever else. I'm pretty sure young brother who performed at the B-Mobile thing, he didn't perform for free. And whoever else you had performed, they didn't perform for free. All right? All of them who was there. So this event, NCC Carnival launch, pretty sure you had artists who came and would have performed. I saw Super Blue, I saw Terry Lyons and all them. Pretty sure they didn't perform for free. Money had to be spent for that. And all the people we invite and you could bring your guests. So invitation, so and so, and guests to come. You see them, they liking themselves in Napa. Money spent, they put on their best. I see Mr. Alexander there again. Don't miss a beat. Every invitation he get, he had to work out, he has to go in. Because he has nothing else to do. He has to earn his keep. The 70,000 plus that he making every month, you need to put in on a parent, so you can't say that he ain't doing nothing. And when it have nothing for him to attend and no work for him to do in the ministry, he on Facebook. Only trolling PNM MPs, trolling Amory Brown, trolling Marvin Gonzalez. That's all he doing whole day. Sit down on his phone and he look at, hey, I see that. Let me watch. Let me see. Marvin put out a post. Let me go in the backside. Hey, Amory Brown put out a post. Let me respond. Let me see what. Hey, Penny Beckle say something. Look, the media report, Penny say something. All right, let me go on TikTok and do something. Let me jump in my van and do a video to cuss out Penny. That's all he doing all day, trolling PNM MPs so that he could come and go on social media and praise Kamala Prasad Bisesa to say he earning the money. So she might keep him because, just like that. If the day or tomorrow she got up and she decide, hey, I forgot I was supposed to get this man at work. All right, who I could get rid of? Get rid of Philip. He's dispensable. Get rid of him. Replace him with this one. Because he ain't really serving no useful purpose. And all the rest of them. You all want to save money, start with the cabinet. That's where they should start. If you want to save money, millions, because I'm pretty sure the money that you're saving for not having the parade and the fireworks, right? The 2-point-something million. If you get rid of half of the cabinet, all these parliamentary secretaries and minister in the ministry of and minister in the ministry of, get rid of half of them. And I'm pretty sure when you add up the salaries, you're going to save more than what you're saving by not having the parade and not having the fireworks. So miss me with that bull spit, please. Right? If you are really concerned about saving money, the cabinet wouldn't have been so large. The government wouldn't have been so large. All these boards that under the last administration was operating with 6 and 7 people and now have 13 and 14. Maybe you all should consider that because every additional person that you add is board fee every month. Plebdeco, under the last administration, that board was run with 6 people, but only have 13 now. The extra 7, get rid of them. And the board fees that you're paying them every month, you will save. And that money could go to pay CPAP workers. Or as UNC supporters love to say, under the last administration, they knew all the things that the money could have been better spent on. You could have spent it on healthcare and laptops for students and all of these different things, right? But now they don't have a problem with their government, largest cabinet, largest number of government ministers, money spending every month, 2 salaries because you're getting paid as a senator and as a minister. They ain't studying that. But you want to kill Stuart Young, $87,000 a month. Yeah, but you have that clown sit down there, $70,000 a month plus, doing absolutely nothing. What are you doing? Nothing. Only stunting on social media and trying to impress Kamala. All of them genuflecting every time. Now we see who could bow the lowest. As I said before, the only thing they yet to do is to lie down on their belly so she could walk on their back. Form a human mat. But don't worry, they might very well do it one of these days. Because she wears flat shoes, so they don't have to worry about any heels digging into the spine. But then again, none of them have spines anyway, because they also had to submit that. The men, the testicles and the spine. And the women, same thing too. No backbone. Yes, oh yes, leader. Yes, leader. Every time they get up to talk, yes. Praise, remember? This is the protocol. You praise the Prime Minister, and then you start your contribution. And you end your contribution by again praising the Prime Minister. And if possible, during your contribution, you could stick in more praises. Don't forget that is what you need to do. It didn't help Jayanti, but it didn't help Rudy embarrassing. But then again, they still have a number of boards and they haven't really started appointing ambassadors yet. Speaking of ambassadors, so I see they bring back Neil Parsan. For those of you who might not be familiar with that name, Neil Parsan was the former, under the PP, he was the ambassador to where, boy? Yes, no. Let me see if I get it here. Something in the United States. I can't remember if he was the ambassador to Washington or if he was ambassador. No, he was in the United Nations. That was Rodney Charles. So he would have probably been the ambassador. Where Major Philip Spencer was, I think that is where Parsan is now. But he was in something else before. I'm going to read it there. But they bring him back. So I think he is now the permanent resident this country's ambassador and permanent resident to the United Nations. So I think the gentleman who was serving as the Secretary General of the UN General Assembly, forgive me for forgetting his name, right? The Trinidadian guy, forgive me, please. I think that was his position before, now this guy. Newspaper article dated 28th of August 2012. Washington envoy defends spending on TNT embassy. New York, TNT's ambassador to the US, Mexico, and the Organization of Americas, Dr. Neil Passan, has fired back at critics who call the remodeling of his new Washington office as lavish and excessive. He called the brouhaha understandable after the interior of the embassy was featured in the popular Home and Design magazine. But Passan resented, where is it? Come on, what are you doing? But Passan resented being dubbed the Little Prince of Dubai and defended his position, saying the building remained unoccupied for some time after the previous administration had bought it for US $12 million. Undertaking this project was a judicious move, he said, saying the failure to take action would have been unproductive. He said employees had worked under cramped conditions and that he saw it as a priority to have an environment conducive to carrying out the functions of his office. An environment conducive to carrying out the functions of his office, but it was so lavishly done that it ended up in Home and Design magazine, popular Home and Design magazine. At the cost of US $211,000, we managed to convert bedrooms into offices and kitchens into functional workspace. We also refurbished the elevator in the old building next door, again under budget and within time. He went on to say that any criticism of an existing suite on the top floor was misguided because it was a cost-efficient measure and will be occupied only. Right, and will be occupied only by the visiting head of state. So you do a whole suite upstairs, and you say in by the visiting head. Which visiting head of state? The head of state of Trinidad and Tobago? How often the head of state goes to Washington? It can't be no other head of state, because if they come into Washington, they're not coming to see you. Sometimes in this business, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't, he added. In New York, to address a gala commemorating TNT's 50th anniversary of independence. You always actually celebrate independence? Passan, speaking from his suite in the Marriott Marquis, Papa Laps, also responded to deepening concern that political appointments to key diplomatic positions are risky and could damage the image of the nation. He concurred that certain locations require more technical and bureaucratic support, identifying the UN, Geneva, and the OAS as examples, but was confident that an appropriate, or rather that an appointment based on meritocracy would add value to any diplomatic position. He said career bureaucrats might not necessarily deliver on the multiple duties of the office, and it all depends on the ability and vision of the individual, and clearly he thinks he is such an individual. Passan, who assumed office a year and a half ago, briefly addressed the controversy of the New York consulate, where several workers were dismissed. He said he was taken off guard by the development and was approached by disaffected workers to look into the matter. He has since delivered a report to Port of Spain and is awaiting a response, he said. Right. So they bring he back. I think after the PNM came in and he was removed from that position, he was able to secure some other big position somewhere, and they claimed it was based on his position as the ambassador that he was able to use that position to get this other position and so on. I will do the research and I will get back to you all with respect to the specific details on that. But you see, they figure we forget. I do forget. I told them I spend a lot of time on memory lane. A lot of time on memory lane. And we see the same players, some of the same players coming back. They were complaining all the time. Foreign exchange, the forex reserves under this PNM, they only dipping, and the foreign exchange reserves only going down and going down. Well, now, based on a report I saw a couple of days ago, it appears that our foreign exchange reserves have now fallen under the $5 billion mark. Under the $5 billion mark for the first time in a long time. Right. But I thought you all were not going to touch the foreign reserves. So you know what's going to happen, right? And the PNM, we hate to say we told you so, but we told you so. So as our country's foreign reserves continue to dip, And our clueless government doesn't know how to generate new foreign exchange, so they hitching their wagon to Exxon. But understand, a production sharing contract was signed. No drilling has started yet. No seismic surveys have started. In fact, nothing has started as yet. And given the fact that nothing has started as yet, and Exxon still has to, even if they start drilling and they find any hydrocarbons, they still have to make the what is called the final investment decision. That is a term that many of you should have been familiar with over the last year or so, because we heard over the course of the last year, under Honorable Stuart Young as Minister of Energy, we had a lot of final investment decisions being taken by several big energy players, right? And we heard the VP of Exxon, who was part of that signing ceremony, tell us a few days ago that these were complex negotiations that started since last year, November. It took 6 months to conclude. 6 months. But as has become the norm with the UNC, they like to take, when they come into office, they like to take credit for things that had nothing to do with them, things that were initiated by the previous administration. And because that administration left office before these matters were concluded, they now inherited it. And it just so happens that it has come to its conclusion under them. That's why they were boasting they built 106 schools between 2010 to 2015. But the facts would show, as had been presented by former Minister of Education, Anthony Garcia, in the Parliament in May of 2019, a number of those schools that they lay claim for had started under the People's National Movement, whether it was the early childhood care centers, primary schools, secondary schools, had started under the PNM, and construction of same completed under the UNC. And they took credit for that. In the same way, they tried to take credit for the Grand Bazaar interchange, which had been started under the PNM. And when they came into office in 2010, the Grand Bazaar interchange was almost complete because they had already started putting the overhead piece and so on, right? We remember the Christmas, the traffic light Christmas tree that they have on the highway there by the interchange that was put there by Rambachan, right? Those traffic lights that were taken out after traffic lights that were there by Nestle there, and the traffic lights that used to be by Arangwes, which they also sort of lay claim for that interchange as well, that overpass, which was done by the PNM, started under the PNM, and they didn't, they're not talking about turn sod, as they did with the Arima Hospital and the Point 14 Hospital. They just turned some dirt and say they built. These projects had started, construction had started, parts of it had already been put in place, but then they came into office and wanted to take credit for that. So they come now, they have nothing to show. And because the last administration didn't trumpet this, the last administration didn't tell the population, well, here what, we in negotiations with Exxon. In fact, nobody knew, not even the international community, because Exxon said nothing about it either. So one can only come to the inescapable conclusion that a decision was taken that they would keep the negotiations under wraps, lest to see where it leads, because negotiations could go either way. It could be successful and we proceed, or it could be unsuccessful and we decide this don't make no sense, we part in ways. So let us not come out and say that this is happening and then it does not go the way that we would like, and then both parties end up looking stupid. And people asking, so what went on with that? So let us wait until the conclusion, because in fact, when news broke of Exxon's imminent return to Trinidad and Tobago, CNC3 reached out to now Minister of Energy, Rudal Munilal, for comment, and Munilal refused to confirm or deny. He simply said the government is engaging with a number of major energy players. He did not confirm to say, well, yes, we are in negotiations, or yes, we will be signing something soon. He didn't do that. He simply said the government is talking to a lot of major energy players, and he left it at that. And it was only when a final decision was taken and they decided we're going to sign this production sharing contract, then an official statement was made. But as I said before, for the UNC, who figure, well, yeah, I think, they was asking the government where the money coming from and where the money coming from. Well, look, Kamala showed them where the money coming from. Kamala might sooner go to the great beyond before any Trinidad and Tobago realizes any revenue from that project. All right? Because even if they find hydrocarbons, if they don't think it's commercially viable, they're not going to do anything. And I pointed out to you all before. I think I can't remember if it was Calypso or Coquina Mannequin or one of these fields. Since 1983, that gas field had been that gas field was found since 1983. And it was only in 2023 or 2024 a final investment decision was taken. Almost 40 years later. It took them 40 years to make a final investment decision. 40 years to say, well, okay, we're ready. So even if Exxon finds something, there is no guarantee that any investment decision will be taken at that point. Okay? So we still a long ways off. But guess what? Dragon was just 2 years off. Or, based on what Shell had said just mere weeks before the election, it would have been 1 year off because they were looking to bring up the timeline for first gas to 2026. You'll be lucky if Exxon starts even doing any seismic surveys by 2026. Okay? So, let us not get our hopes up. Any money coming from that is still a long, long, long way off. And further to add to that, when the government first came into office, let us not forget, these negotiations with Exxon were taking place when they came into office in April, right? Started since November, December, January, February, March, April. All right? You hear them say anything about it? They would have been well aware. They were in office for the whole of May, they said nothing. The whole of June, they said nothing. July, they said nothing. We only heard about it in August, a week or so before the document was signed. So when they came into office and telling us about Suriname and Grenada and Guyana, and they were getting licks for it, why didn't they make mention of that? Why didn't they say, well, when people ask them, where the money coming from? Where the money coming from? Why they didn't say, well, we negotiations with Exxon, and Exxon going and spend X amount of billions? Why Kamala didn't come out then and say that? Why Monilal didn't come out then and say that? They want to know where the money coming from. Well, look, the money coming from here, we're going and sign. Why they didn't say it then? You know why? Because they couldn't. So when they want to say, well, the last administration, and they just want to take credit, and why they didn't tell the population, why they didn't say that before the election, and so to see if we gotta help them. Clearly, they couldn't. Because if your government of today couldn't say anything when they were taking licks for Grenada and Guyana and Suriname, said nothing about it, and clearly the other administration couldn't say anything either. All right? So miss us with that. Very soon, we're supposed to be seeing the rollout of the electronic, where you would, the form that they give you when you're coming back into the country to fill out. And people keep complaining about that. And the last administration would have started the project with CARICOM impacts so that you would fill out your information before you fly online, so you don't have to fill out no form on the plane. That will be coming into play soon. They would have already done a soft launch, my understanding of it. So when it happens, I'm telling you all no. So when it is rolled out, they can't come and say they did it. Because for them, everything is AI, and they want to give you the impression that, hey, we're doing this and we're doing that. And a lot of the things that they're rolling out are programs that started under the last administration. But again, because the PNM is piss poor when it comes to PR, a lot of things was happening and we didn't know about it. A lot of things was happening and it wasn't spoken about because perhaps the last administration thought that the citizenry was wiser and saw what the UNC offers and would not have gone down the road of putting them back in office. Well, they didn't cast their vote, but that's the problem. They didn't cast their ballot. They didn't cast it for us either. So there are a lot of other things to touch on, but I just want to touch quickly again on that issue of the cancellation of the parade and the piss poor defense that supporters of the UNC offering, all right, to say, well, I read one comment this morning. I responded to a comment, and no, I commented on that post, and one of the supporters decided to come and challenge me to tell me that, well, there's no PNM or UNC, but all they don't understand what the government's saying, that the intelligence services say that it's not a wise decision to have all of these people in one place at the same time, given that we're under a state of emergency and so how much 90-something% of the assets of the security forces would be in one place and all of that, and making sense, and or they just like to oppose for opposing sake. As I had to remind the individual Miss me with that. In 2011, the People's Partnership initiated, implemented a state of emergency on the 21st of August, 2011. 10 days before independence. 10. 10 days before. Right? This is after we were told by John Sandy that the intelligence services unearthed information that something was going to happen that would make the 1990 coup look like a tea party. Those of us who were around during the 1990 coup, we know the damage that was done. And if you're telling me that you have intelligence that something was being planned that would have made that look like a tea party, well, it had to be major. But it wasn't major enough for you to cancel the parade and the fireworks in 2011, 10 days after you implemented a state of emergency. But in 2025, 45 days after independence, it would be 45 days after you implemented a state of emergency. You're telling me that the risk is too great and we can't have it. So 10 days was all right. You had 45 days to neutralize the threat. 45 in this year, right? 45 days. But that wasn't enough. But in 2011, 10 days was enough to neutralize the threat, such that it didn't pose any danger to all of these dignitaries who gathered at the Queen's Park Savannah for the independence parade and the fireworks. But as I told you, with them, less is more. So 10 days is all right. But 45, nah, that's not enough. Despite the fact that the Commissioner of Police told earlier last week, threat is neutralized. Yeah, the threat is neutralized. So, but we need to keep up the hoax. We need to keep up the charade. All right? Because the Prime Minister just the other day tell her ministers, don't be cavorting all over the place. Stop going and liming and winding on the place and partying and having a good time when we're under a state of emergency. So however, look, if it is that we have this event and we're going from place to place, drinking, eating, drinking, having a good time, and we just fired 35,000 people, you know what they will say? They have money. They have money for parade. And they have money for fireworks, but they have money, they can't pay CPEP workers, and they have money for URP workers, and they don't have money for forestry workers. They have money for that. They don't have money to pay the 10%. They only complain they have money in the treasury dry. The PNMA even left fumes in the treasury. We can't pay the 10%, but all they have money to host event and whatnot. We can't take that risk. So it's better we cancel, we take some licks. But it's the first year, so we can do all these things and hope that by 2030, the population will forgive and forget. Forgive and forget. But I hope those who are inclined to forgive and forget that you will remember, right? Particularly CPEP workers. Remember the months of hardship. Well, I say in months, I don't know how long it's going to be. Remember the weeks and the months of hardship that you had to go through. Remember when the landlord keep calling your phone, and every time your phone rings, you're frightened to watch because you're afraid to see the landlord's name come up. Remember that. I had somebody come to my office this week, right? I'm going to tell you how bad it is. A young lady came to my office this week, former CPF worker, looking for employment, right? So we put her on the list to see if we could contact our friend to assist. And this is the first time, the first office day I've had where I felt like I was a psychiatrist, like I was a psychologist. I was just sitting, and person after person just came and they just needed to vent. They just needed to talk and let it all out. And I just sit down there and I listening. Former CPF worker after former CPF worker coming in and telling me all the problems, all the troubles. And it's just like, it felt as if they were just so relieved to have somebody that they could talk to, somebody who they think could help them, help the situation, rather than venting to people who could only sympathize but can't help. And so I just sat back in my chair and I listened. And this young lady came. She said, listen, I was a CPF for how much years, and this is what I know. And it hard. She said, I'm tired being home. I'm tired being at home. And I don't have no money. Somebody tell me come and talk to the MP and see how the MP can help. She said, but here's the problem. Some of my colleagues, some of them want to come and see her, but they're afraid because they figure they might have to sign some document or fill out some form, and they can't read and they can't write. She said if you hand them a piece of paper with a name on it, they wouldn't even know that's their name. That's how bad it is. And so they're afraid to come and be given a form to fill out, only for people to realize that they can't read and they can't write. They're embarrassed. But she said, I have one colleague who is 19 years old with 3 children. And the eldest child is about to enter primary school. And she has no money, looking for help to buy school books and whatnot. And her situation is so dire that she has to use pieces of towel as sanitary napkins. She can't afford to buy pads, so she's using cloth. She can't afford to buy Pampers, so she had to use diapers. In some cases, the same diapers that she's using for her child, she's using as a pad. These are the things I hear every week. But this young lady had a job. She probably wasn't making a lot of money, but at least she wasn't in that situation. She could buy food, put food on the table for her kids, and make do. And sometimes I'm amazed at how some of these people are able to make do with this money, right? And I had 2 people come in this week who look at the program and they wanted to assist, and they would have made a donation, which is going to go a long way in helping people like this young lady. As I said, we have book lists to fill. We have people who've come and ask us for support with school supplies. But I don't have resources like Roger Alexander. See, again, Big Papi show, 230 hampers, he call it, back to school hampers. And school bag is Adidas bag and Nike bag, and we can't afford that, right? So folks, so people who see in that, they have financiers who could do that for them. I doubt they even depend on their own pockets to pay for these things. But it's a big show, whole camera crew, and we need to show this and whatnot and stuff. We don't have that, right? So with a combination of contributions that have come from good Samaritans like yourself, some of you who listen, contributions from my own pocket, and with donations from 1 or 2 of the few people who are still in the PNM camp, right? We've been able to get a few bags from Balize House, because Balize House, through the welfare committee under Maxine Richards, who's the welfare officer, they've been able to get some bags, and we would have gotten, in the constituency, we got about 15. And so we will be distributing those soon. And as I said, through the collection of resources, through my own resources and what persons have contributed, the constituency office itself will be doing some more. Right? So to those of you who have contributed, who have come to the office, thank you so much. I was supposed to, I had the envelope outside there with the lady's name. Forgive me, ma'am. I forgot. I can't remember your name right now, but I will give you a call because I know you left your number. So I will be calling you. So if you go on my page, you will see I would have posted my office day from Thursday, and there's a picture with me hugging a lady. She would have come in and she made a contribution for which we are truly grateful. All right. And yes, she said it's just a courtesy call and needed to meet you in person, right? And she came and she said, I just need my hug. And I was only too happy to oblige. And she said, it's not much, but I listen to the program and I hear the things that you enjoy as an MP, and I just wanted to contribute in some small way. All right. And I think another lady also visited the office. I wasn't there, and she would have also made a donation, for which we are truly grateful. So on behalf of my staff, thank you so much. And on behalf of the constituents who will benefit from that, again, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. Right? So we're doing what we Kadid. Yeah, I typed today, Kadid. Well, I just repeated what people call her. She's not my auntie. Right? And you will never hear me refer to her as that. All right? No auntie, nothing. But that's what some people still are calling her. UNC never is saying it is unfortunate, but now they will know what to eat grass is. Yeah, and I know that same young lady who I told her about just now, who came to tell me, about her colleague and so on, the 19-year-old. And she was saying, listen, I didn't vote. She said I normally vote PNM, but she said this time I was confused. I didn't know what to do because, yes, the PNM is a party and I support, but I was just hearing so many things and I didn't know what to believe. And I just didn't bother to vote. She said I could never vote UNC. She said, but I just didn't bother to vote because of all the things I was saying about the government and all of that. And yeah, she said, but now I regret it. And it's not me alone. She said, I know plenty of people who was in the same boat as me. So we ain't voting because this, because we hear this and we hear that and we weren't hearing all otherwise. And she didn't vote. All of these people didn't vote, and now they regret it. And I'm not telling tales out of school because Maxine was in the room with me. My office manager was in the room with me. And I'm sure they're probably looking now. So they know. I am telling you, this is what actually happened. I'm not just making this up. This is what happened. This is what the young lady said to me. Right? That she was just confused. And for the first time, she didn't vote. But again, hear what she said? She was hearing things about the party, about the government. And, and in the absence of the government refuting these things, in the absence of the government debunking these things, people like her just didn't vote because they didn't know what to do. Because they felt that to vote for the PNM, that they were supporting wrongdoing or they were supporting a callous government that was uncaring. But we had to take licks for that. Since 2018, I telling them about it. Oh, your PR is weak. It is poor. Things were being done and it was not being highlighted. Now, every single thing the UNC showing, I'm fed up. They're abusing TTT. They're abusing state media. Every single thing they do is a papi show. So I see video with Michelle Benjamin jumping out the back of her Prado. I saw videos with Barry Padera jumping out the back of his Prado. I saw a video with Julian John jumping out the front of whatever vehicle she was in, some white van. Couldn't make out what it is. But she started work at her. She left home at 4:30. I think she said to go down Library and Point 14 or whatever to view projects there. They only viewing projects in UNC constituencies. So apparently the 13 that under the PNM don't exist. We don't have needs in those 13 constituencies. And these are the same people who accuse the last government of geographic discrimination in terms of the allocation of resources, state resources, right? I have seen many videos and posts with Jillian going all over the place, visiting projects here, there, and everywhere. And not one has been in a PNM constituency. But I'll wait, maybe they're dealing with UNC first, and then when they finish, maybe she might cast her gaze on the PNM. But I sent letters. I've written to her. I haven't gotten any response yet. I'll write again. This time I will attach pictures. In fact, I did attach pictures. But I will attach more pictures. So she can see the urgency of it. And if I get no response, then she leaves me no choice. I will raise the matter as an urgent question in Parliament on the floor of the chamber so that she can answer to the population and more so the constituents of WMera. What is the status of this? What is the status of the bridge in Samaru Village, which is a priority for me? What is the status of paving of Joke and Trace, which is another bugbear for me, right? There's, I did a site visit this week. John Lane in Dabadi. There's a part of the road that is caving in there, right? Somebody sent a picture to me, a resident, so I visited there this week last week with the councillor and one of the engineers, I think, from the corporation. So we took a look at it. He indicated to me what they would do. We then went down to Joe Countries as well, and we were able to see some of what we could do as a short-term interim measure until the ministry comes and paves that whole road. We went to Royal Palm Road as well. Some drainage works needs to be done there. That road also needs some paving, and I will be doing more site visits like that throughout the constituency with my councillors to identify what are the priority ones so that I can write to the minister, and hopefully she will come and do a site visit in the constituency of Malabar Mausika as she's doing in the UNC constituencies. But I did ask her face to face in the parliament. She gave me her cell phone number and told me send her WhatsApp, So, but I've gone down the route of the official route, so there's something on record, and then I will reach out to her on WhatsApp as she suggested, and let's see how that pans out. Shima is saying plenty of people were like that. Some professionals also did not vote, stating the PNM didn't do anything. I don't know what country they were living in. Victoria Isidore is saying we're paying the stupid price now for not voting. Blessed One is saying Dr. Rowley spoke about the rich getting richer to help the poor and was heavily criticized and is going to reveal in true sense. Dominic just mentioned the lady's contribution. Right. Indeed. The UNC Nothing is saying, DR, what does the opposition think of the DT ransom for Maduro or their ships in the Caribbean? Any thoughts on TNT impact? DT, I'm guessing, is Donald Trump. I have not really studied it as yet, but I will do so, and perhaps on my next live I will touch on it. Sadiqa O'Brien is saying God was hearing the cries of the people, but God had to prepare Moses. Bernice is saying where's his social media personnel for the PNM? Just ask me some kind of question. I know Simon is doing work behind the scenes. So hopefully soon enough you all will start to see the fruits of that. All right. Yeah, so that's all I could say on that for now. Corey McEwen is saying Tobago independence is being called off by Fali in agreement with Kamala. Yes, Corey, I saw that too. And I could come to know, you see, and that's the unfortunate thing, right? We want autonomy, we want Tobago autonomy, we want self-determination, we want to be able to make our own laws, and we want to be able to determine Tobago's fate and our own. But now, that was when Dr. Rowley and the PNM was in office. All right, now that Kamala Prasad Bisesa, Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the UNC in office, all of a sudden, Tobago autonomy, self-determination, it could take a little backseat. All right? And when it is that you have a budget coming up and you want what you've always asked for, that you said the PNM didn't give you, you will toe the line. They didn't mind cussing Keith Rowley and the PNM because according to the current chief secretary, the PNM is the enemy of Tobago. Right? And he was at war with the enemy of Tobago. So he didn't care if the things he said about and to Dr. Rowley, if it would have impacted, albeit it didn't, because notwithstanding that toxic relationship between Fali and Dr. Rowley, the PNM spent money in Tobago. We have the airport that I heard the other day, the Secretary for Tourism was calling for it to be opened and so on and whatnot, and espousing how important that airport that terminal would be for Tobago tourism. But then I said, but isn't this the same airport terminal that just a few months ago you told the government they could take it and put it between the legs? When you quoted, as you said, Princess Margaret, they could take their airport terminal and put it between their legs. That's what she said. But now you see the importance of the terminal. But you're hoping to get where you're asking. You're not going to get it, I can tell you that. Let me tell you, the government is in a tight cash crunch. I would not want to be in Dave Tanku's shoes right now. And they are seeing the very things that they were chastising the last administration for, all of the austerity measures, they are now forced to implement it. This time around, they don't have the benefit of $100 plus per barrel of oil. This time around, they don't have the benefit of $8 per MMBTU for gas and all of that, as they did between 2010 to 2015, that they could afford to splurge. And I wait to see if the upcoming budget, if they're going to spend $60+ billion. I could tell you they don't have that money, right? And there are those who are speculating that part of the reason why they are canceling stuff is because they don't have the money. They have come to the realization that the last administration was making tough decisions because the money was not there. I have now I have the facility to speak directly to former Minister of Finance, Colin Burt. So I can hear firsthand the headaches and the challenges that Mr. Imbert had on a monthly basis to find money to make sure that every government worker got their salaries on time. Something that we are now seeing in some cases is not happening. Where MTS again they pay on time, and if they get salary, their deductions that's supposed to come out of their salary is not being remitted to where they're supposed to go to. We've had a number of workers in different state agencies saying that they have not received salaries as yet. I heard the minister say, I think one of those corporations, I can't remember which one, that is controlled by the UNC, a PNM councillor was saying that they have not gotten, no PNM Alderman was saying they haven't gotten salaries for last month yet. And a UNC councillor, again, as is the norm, tried to blame the past administration and say, well, they be in this position because the last administration didn't do this and didn't do that. But then the current minister, Khadija Amin, came out and said it was because of some clerical error, and she brought it to the attention of the PS and to sort out the situation. Right? But they are understanding now the cash crunch that the country was in because oil and gas revenues are down. Oil and gas revenues are down. Production is down, and therefore the government's revenue is also down. But Mrs. Pasabi says so now want to come and play. She wanted call out Republic Bank and First Citizens, two of the banks that contribute the most amount of money to the country's coffers in the form of taxes. You're attacking these banks. So what people are asking, is it your intent? Well, they have control over the board of directors for FCB. The government is also the largest shareholder, I think, in Republic. But I don't think they have the same amount of leeway in terms of the constitution of the board of Republic Bank because it's a publicly listed company. And so that is a little different. But I believe the state does have representation on that board. But they can't have their way as they could with other state enterprises. Right? So what was the point of attacking Republic Bank? And that reminds me, let me just touch on this last thing because I wasn't planning to stay here for so long. The hypocrisy of Pasabi Sessa. It's difficult to have to go back to looking at the Monday Night Forum. Fortunately, in their propaganda thrust, they are now doing video clips of things that she says. So I don't need to watch the whole Monday Night Forum. I don't need to listen to her whole speech because I could just go and pull up whichever video, short clip. So one of the things she talked about on Monday, I don't know how I forgot that. That was one of the things I meant to mention. She made a claim, I think I have it saved. But Julian John told her some member of the 1% came into her office and told her about the Invaders Bay lands and that he was getting a loan from Republic Bank at preferential rates to purchase the land. And then he was going to get another loan from Republic Bank to develop the land, made certain requests, if you want to call it that, certain demands. And Pasabi Sessa went on to talk about how that is how things were done before, under the last administration. Let me see if I get it here. I know I saved it. So many things I saved. So, is it this? PM wants banks serve the people, not only the elite. The fake elite, madam? Can't be real elite and fake elite. All right, so I saved it on now. I'll give me 1 second. I've forgotten all about that. Right. Imagine Kamna say Somalia become too lazy. Clean up all your dams surrounded. Stop waiting on the government. Wean off the government. Was basically what she said. Wean off. When Dr. Rowley say wean off.
PM Kamala called out corrupt officials and vowed to fire them if they continue.
No, that's not it. Gosh, where is this thing, boy? I know I had saved it, but I suppose I will try and play it for you all next time because I can't find it. But where she spoke about this 1% going to Jolene John, making certain demands for the Invaders Bay lands, and the elite figure that they entitled, the 1% figure they entitled to certain things and whatnot and so on. And when I read that, I said, what utter hypocrisy. I recall between 2010 to 2015, those same Invaders Bay lands came up as an issue. Y'all remember when Mr. Chin, Derek Chin, who I saw, gave comment on that matter, and he claimed that the last administration, the wicked PNM, or the nasty PNM, or something like that, some term like that he used. The same nasty PNM under who he was owing millions of dollars in taxes. Something like that, something like that. The wicked PNM or the nasty PNM or whatever. I can't remember what it is exactly, but something like that was reported in the newspaper. That they tried to take away the lands on which Movietown is on, take it away from them and so on. There was land grabbing and so on. Some other director for Movietown. So when the media contacted him, Mr. Chin, he indicated that he was on a plane. And so he directed them to speak to some other director, and that director said, well, basically, I can't substantiate what Mr. Chin said. I don't have any evidence that there was any attempt to land grab and take any land. But Mr. Chin is saying, basically, so clearly he's no fan of the PNM, the last administration. But I recall between 2010 to 2015, a decision was taken by the People's Partnership to award Mr. Chin some acreage in the back there by same Invaders Bay land and some other entity, right? Because you all may recall Mr. Chin wanted to build something called Streets of the World, which would have been an extension of Movietown. And what was proposed was that they would have had a development with different streets, and each street would have been named after a particular country. And on each street, they would have offered, you would have had stores and restaurants and so on that offer wares from those countries, right? So if you go down French Street or France Street, you would be able to get French food and French clothing and French whatever. You go down to Switzerland Street or India Street or whatever street, and you will get things applicable to that country. And then there was a whole toing and froing back and forth, and eventually the government took a decision under then Planning Minister Bohendranath Tiwari to award Mr. Chin, Chin Enterprises, and some other entity lands there. And Afra Raymond, the former president of the JCC, filed a Freedom of Information request to find out what were the circumstances under which the government took the decision to award these lands to these two entities. And the ministry refused to provide him with the information. Mr. Raymond then filed for judicial review, right? Went to court. And the judge found in his favor and instructed the then Minister of Planning, Tiwari, and the ministry to release the information to Mr. Raymond. And Mr. Tiwari, in defiance of the court order, refused to release the information, claiming that they sought senior counsel advice, and the senior counsel advice is what informed the decision to award the lands, but that senior counsel advice was protected by attorney-client privilege. And on that basis, the government refused to disclose to the public what informed the decision to dispose of public lands to private entities. So it is no surprise to me if Mr. Chin is now upset with the PNM, because under the last administration, whatever arrangements have been put in place by the PP fell through. He didn't get the lands, and the money that he had supposedly to build that development, he ended up going to Guyana and he put up Movie Town in Guyana. So it was reported, right? But when I listen to Mrs. Pasabi Sasakawanan talking about the elite and the fake elite and this 1% come and they want to dictate peace to the government and so on. And that's how they used to do things. But that is how things were done under you, madam. One man got 100 acres of land in Chagaramas to plant onions to export. Any onions were planted? We know that what we know was planted was a restaurant that is doing very well today. That was planted, for sure. One man got 35 acres to put up a water park. $3,800 a month rent when the state valuator said it should have been $500,000 a month. I think he's still paying that amount after the last administration took him to court and the matter was tied up in court. The same fake elite that you're chastising today is the same fake elite that benefited under you. When it is that you all bulldoze the lands belonging to the Guave Road farmers, right? 4 acres of land, heap up the people produce that was ready for harvesting, all the sweet potato and the plantain and okra and all kind of thing, heap it up in a corner and tell them, hey, you could go and see what they could salvage. So that you could give 4 acres to one man to build a car park for his water park, right? Which he was supposed to keep a few spaces and then lease out the rest of the car park to the CDA. So he was paying at $1 per year. $1 per year for that 4 acres. And the car park was supposed to be leased to the CDA for $900,000 a month. Not a year, $900,000 a month. That's over $10 million for the year. Right? Almost $11 million for the year would have been paid. And out of that $11 million, $1 would have go back to the government and he keep the rest. When the last administration came in and they say, forget that, they took it back. The 100 acres that was given, they take back 50. So who really was supporting the fake elite, madam? Who was under the control of the fake elite? Over 15 leases that were given out to the same fake elite in Chagaramas. A month before the general election in 2015, the last administration took all of them to court. Till one of the men say, well, listen, I done start to spend money to develop this, I done put on money there and put up structure. So if all you want back all your land, pay me $100 million and you could take back your land. The same fake elite. Who was it that gave the Chagaramas Convention Center to the same fake elite? The last administration under the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, which no longer exists, which your government brought an end to, but you so care about the youth, and the youth must take center stage in the next budget. We wait to see. The same Chagaramas Convention Center that you gave away to the fake elite for them to use as they please, the last administration took it back. And just before they demitted office, renovations was well underway into turning it into a youth apprenticeship center, where the same youth that you so care about, but who you've thrown on the wayside by doing away with a ministry that was dedicated to them, that apprenticeship center that was previously the Chagaramas Development, the Chagaramas Convention Center, was supposed to be used to train them in a variety of different skills. Not 3 weeks in TSTT. No. Programs. It would have offered a number of programs that range from probably 6 months to 2 years or more. If you drive down there, you will see the big sign. I don't know if they take it down now, but the Chagaramas Youth Apprenticeship Center. You all did that, and in your manifesto, your former National Economic Transformation Plan that you offered as a manifesto in 2020 stated, and I quote, a new UNC government will continue what we started on the Western Peninsula in Chagaramas. So even though people marched from Chagaramas to the waterfront when the parliament was there to protest, your government giving away prime real estate at peppercorn rates to the same fake elite that you're pretending you don't care about today and want to get rid of, right? When they did that, you came in your manifesto in 2020, your National Economic Transformation Plan, and up to a few months or a couple months before the general election was your manifesto that you were encouraging people to go on the internet and read to see what the UNC was offering to revive the economy. It was right there that you plan to continue what you started in Chagaramas, which was what? Giving away prime real estate at peppercorn rates to the same fake elite that you're faking you don't like. But you expanded your government, created a whole set of new ministries. Soon enough, buildings will have to be rented. From who? The same fake elite? The dossier that you claim had over 150 buildings belonging to the 1%, and on the next night you will tell us about this 150 buildings and who owns them. You never came back. All of a sudden the dossier disappeared. But today you want to come and talk about fake elite and the 1%. The 1% after the government, the 1% are the largest employers in this country. And they don't only hire people and pay them. In fact, the majority of jobs that they offer don't pay minimum wage. They pay more than minimum wage. And when you go to some of these companies and you look and you see who are the leaders, who are the managers and the executives, it's not 1%. A lot of times it's people who look like me. So maybe that's the reason why I have a problem with the 1%. Right? Maybe go to Answer McCall and look at their top level executives and see who they are. Yes, you will have one or two sagas because they own the company. But after them, look and see who are the people, the executives who are making the big money. Right? Same people who, anyway, let me not go there. Let me not go there. Maybe that's probably why you don't like them. But just understand that after the government, they are the largest employers. And if they were to decide in the morning that they're going to pack up shop and leave, this country would be in a mess. Okay? Just pointing that out. So you might be able to fool your supporters into believing that you're against the 1% who you have managed to culture your supporters to hate. Right? To hate because something wrong with them aspiring for better. So with them wanting to expand their business, you consider that to be greed. Something wrong with the rich wanting to get richer. But I always talk about the 9% that we don't talk about. The 9% who supporting the UNC, who own the groceries and the pharmacies and all of these different things. The 9% who was bankloading the UNC's election campaign to the tune of millions of dollars. You ain't gonna talk about them. They're not greedy. Right? The 1% paving, you have any 1% own any road paving company? So when you want to talk about this sitting down with P&M contractors, who? You know, they ain't giving no contract to Alan Warner. I'm pretty sure Warner ain't coming and sit down and hired with no UNC, nobody. Fally ain't giving Warner and them no contract either, because that's Rowley friend. Right? Well, that's Rowley friend and he playing golf with Rowley. So anybody playing golf with Rowley, we don't deal with. We're dealing with everybody else. I am not fooled. All those millions have to be repaid. And if, as you say, past this prologue, and if the 5 years, 2010 to 2015 is anything to go by, these people certainly have no confidence, based on how you all have started, that if you will last more than 5 years. So they want to get as much as they could. So when we see in a lot of these board appointments, understand, those were purchased. Purchased. People who spend the money, donated to the UNC's campaign, and now they call in the shots. He who pays the piper calls the tune. I want my nephew, and I want my son, and I want my daughter on this board and that board. And we asking about what qualifications they have. What qualification? Daddy checkbook. That was the qualification. Just accept it. It is what it is. But let me just get this thing here, right? Got the time already. I'm supposed to go on a side visit. One of my constituents wants a bridge. Yeah. Sometimes I think these people figure I could work magic, yes? Let me just play this last thing here and I'm done.
I'm warning some person. You know who you are. You cannot complain about the ghosts in the CPAP. And then you are on our thoughts. You just want to replace those ghosts with your ghosts. It can't work like that. It must not work like that. It will not work. I'm warning some persons. You know who you are. You cannot complain about the ghosts in the CPAP. And then you are on our thoughts. You just want to replace those ghosts with your ghosts. It can't work like that. It must not work like that. It will not work. I won't.
Can't work like that. It must not work like that. But you wasn't saying that before the 28th of April, madam. You should have let the people know that before. So they came, they gave you their vote on the expectation that is what would have happened. Your same supporters who vex with you now, that's what they want. Oh, the PNM corrupt, and the PNM corrupt, and the government need to revamp the CPEP program because it had corruption and all them PNM contractors and them and who was making how much money and so on. But then you come to tell us the very same hypocrites who come in on social media and complaining and talking about the PNM was corruption and CPEP was corruption under the PNM and so on. These same people were expecting that you would have used that as a ruse to get rid of the PNM contractors and put them in so they could engage in the same corruption that they claim the PNM was engaging in. Same thing. That's you just heard us say that. Who you feel she was talking to? You want us to get rid of those ghosts and replace them with your ghosts. She wasn't talking to PNM people. It's her own UNC supporters, her own UNC financiers she talking to, who down their throats. PNM can not down all their throat. So when they get in calls, but NTN tell me whether I get a CPEP contract, what going on? Or let's shut down the program, and I don't expect it already. I don't know my people line up to be on gang or whatever it is they call it, and or they shut down the program, what going on there? Or they shop it up. Come on, man. All who they promise. Radio personalities who was talking for them and who they promise you'll get a CPEP contract, you'll get 2 CPEP contract, organize, go and open your business, register your business, because as soon as we come in, you will get your handle. If you have somebody else and you want to, might be able to give you more than 2, but get somebody else, let them register a business and we'll get them 2, but that will be yours, but it'll just be under them. And them happy. Yes. They're singing, boy, they're singing. And then they come into office and realize, but wait now, we can't do that because the PNM extend the contracts for 3 years. So we need to find a way to get out because these contracts are signed is for 3 years. How are we coming out of it? Can't add another 300 contractors. And we were hoping to just simply come in and replace. Can't do that because these contracts signed. And if it is we try to bring these contracts to an end, we could get sued. So what we do? We create a stink and talk about, oh, Paris do this and Paris do that and extend and it was illegal and it's fraud and all kind of rubbish. And we need to shut down the program and we need to restructure it because all it was about was cutting grass and as a national grad cutters and making the borough corporation workers lazy. All like that. Every Monday morning is a different explanation, a different excuse. Because you need to find a creative way to create your own ghosts. So all who was checking, I go on there, they tell me I get 2 CPEP contract. Buy 1 3. But Marshall said I could only drive 1 car at a time, but I still want 2. Them want 2 and 3. Yeah, all over the place. Yellow is the code, the PNM this, the PNM that. UNC win, we expecting thing. When UNC wins, everybody wins. Was Alexander say, when UNC wins, the animals win. The unborn child and the newborn babies win. The elderly win. But what about the people who vote for you, Xander? When are they going to win? The animals didn't vote. The newborn babies and the unborn babies, they didn't vote. But they went in before the people who vote. What is that? We could do that. You can't do that. Come on, man. Other people want to win too. And as I said before, winners don't try to assassinate senior public officials. Winners don't plot to overthrow the country. Winners don't plot to blow up the AG's office with a rocket launcher. Winners don't do those things. Okay? Roger? Okay? Kamla? Winners don't do those things. But let's say when UNC wins, everybody wins. So maybe it's because people not winning is why these things happening. So I see now Wayne Sturge, this morning's newspaper, Wayne Sturge, threats. Several intelligence agencies have unearthed threats to Mr. Sturge and his family. Not just him and his family. So they've had to add additional security measures for Mr. Sturge and his family. So as Minister of Defense, of course, Mr. Sturge had 2 state-sponsored SUVs with security personnel. So now that they've unearthed threats against him and his family, I guess they're going to have to give him probably another SUV with more personnel, that's going to cost you, the taxpayer, more money. But if we had to protect his family members too, because they're under threat, we're going to have to provide vehicles to move for them and also provide personnel for their security. Another expense for you, the taxpayer. So we might very well see Mr. Sturge, who is Minister of Defense, with more security than Minister Alexander, who also has 2 SUVs sponsored by the state with security personnel. But when we take away Stuart Young security detail, which was due to come to an end this month anyway, and you take away Dr. Rowley security detail, so you could probably assign them to them. But for 9 to 10 years, and they keep saying 9 and they're confusing me, for 10 years, they say Dr. Rowley wicked, the PNM evil, the PNM don't care about people, they're suffering the poor people, the PNM is a dictatorship, they destroy the economy, people suffering, they're eating grass, they can't afford to buy chicken, only chicken food. You all remember those things? With all this hardship, you can't get 200 US in the bank, all kind of thing. Nobody wanted to kill the Prime Minister. For 10 years, nobody wanted to kill the Minister of National Security. Nobody wanted to kill any government minister. Nobody wanted to blow up the Ministry of Office of the Attorney General. Nobody wanted to stage a coup with the worst government ever. That's what they were saying. Eh? This is the worst government ever to pass through Trinidad and Tobago. But with the worst government, we heard no intelligence uncovered saying anybody want to kill anybody. That in fact, just when they took away the security detail, they said based on their threat assessment, nobody wants to kill Dr. Rowley, nobody wants to kill Stuart Young. There is no threat, so they don't need no security. They could drive themselves. So we take it back. They're not under threat. But it's only when the UNC in office, when Kamla Persad-Bissessar is Prime Minister, people want to kill the Prime Minister. They want to kill the Minister of Defense. They want to stage a coup. They want to blow up buildings. All of these different things. Only when the UNC is in office, these things happen. But the whole country was supposed to be winning. When UNC wins, everybody wins. If everybody winning, why people want to kill? Why they want to blow up? Why they want to plot a coup? Why? How is it only when the UNC is in power and Kamla is Prime Minister that these things, and in 3 months, after just 3 months in office, people want to do that? Why? If everybody winning, that don't make no sense. I don't understand the logic. People are supposed to be happy. The PNM is out of office. Everything's supposed to fix. You're not supposed to have a problem for Forex. Home invasion supposed to be a thing of the past. Crime supposed to be significantly down without a state of emergency. Nobody wants to kill anybody. Everybody working. Everybody have jobs. And it's not low-paying jobs. Everybody have sustainable jobs, as the Prime Minister wants to talk about. Everybody's supposed to be winning. Even PNM people supposed to be winning as well. But not even UNC people winning until they vex and they down your throat because they ain't winning. Or they're not winning in the way that they were hoping to win, or they thought they would have won, or they're not winning in the way that you told them they would have won, and now that you're in office, you win, but they're not winning. Come on. Come on. So the same way they'll have to say when the PNM in office, crime does go up, or when the PNM in office, when the UNC is in office, then all of a sudden insurrections abound and ministers' lives under threat. Not as other than the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, the Attorney General, and for a period of time the Minister of Energy, who was previously the Minister of National Security, had security detail. For 10 years. No other minister was under threat. Everybody good. Nobody want to kill. But all of a sudden, ministers' lives under threat. All of a sudden, we can't have the Independence Parade because people want to take out government ministers. They say the opposition, we ain't do nothing for nobody to want to kill us now. I certainly ain't do nothing. I think I can speak for my colleagues as well. Nobody don't want to kill us. For what reason? We're not under any threat. We didn't fire 35,000 people. We tried to save the jobs of 35,000 people by putting things in place before the election, which the same people didn't appreciate and didn't give us their vote, withheld their vote. Some of them give their vote to the current government, and now they're out of work. So they have no reason to try to kill us. And still, they want to crucify former ministers for trying to help all here. Understanding how vindictive and nasty that this government is and would have been, and try to put things in place to protect some of you all who did not give us your vote. So when all they say the PNM don't care about the poor, and the PNM wicked and evil, and the PNM only care about the 1%, the same PNM who try to help all here, the same PNM who tried to make sure that when this UNC came into office, because we were hearing things on the ground, people were dissatisfied, so we knew it was touch and go. We knew the possibility, the strong possibility, because people were telling us when we were campaigning, whatever tough fight, it's a tough one, I didn't think you could make that to a term. We were hearing that where we say, well, from your lips, if it is to be, so be it. And because they were hearing that, things were put in place to try and help all here. So even if you all decided not to give us your vote and vote us out of office, at least you would still have jobs. But what was done wasn't enough. They still lost all their work. And more people to lose their jobs. And with the cash crunch, more people are going to lose jobs. And this government clueless, and all who were upset about the 4% and the 5%, I bet they're looking pretty good now, right? Because you didn't get nothing. And you have political analysts telling the government will give them something to hold now so they can't say they're working on 2013 salaries. And Felicia begging, she hoping that in this budget that allocations would be made to pay the 10%. Felicia, that's not happening. It's not happening. That's not how it works. Okay? For the government to budget, they need to know how much they need to budget. And you all need to have some kind of negotiations so that they can allocate that money to pay what you all agree on. That's how it works. They just say, well, we're going to put $6 billion or $10 billion, that is for the 10%. Where it coming from? Where it coming from? I attempted to use a phrase from Philip Alexander, but I wouldn't stoop so low. Then ask yourself, where that money coming from? There are other priorities. And if now people getting paid late, people they're not sending people's deductions and so on. So where it's supposed to be going, people loan being paid late, they incurring late fees because the money not coming, and they getting calls from the bank and whoever and the credit union because no money came in for pay. Where they getting the billions from to pay you all 10%, starting at 10 and back pay? You stop there. You could gripe all you want. Trust me, they have no problem serving 5 years in government. And if all you want to vote them out after that, they know their pension will be based on their highest salary, which would be as ministers. So them good. So between that and what a thief between now and the next 5 years, because you heard Kamala say, I go boss all your head. Stop it. I know what you're doing, but I will give you a chance to repent. And if you play stubborn and you refuse to repent, well, you know what will happen. Stop it. Oh boy. I could probably take a call or two. Natalie Superville says in 2010 to 2015, UNC had more money and still left the country in deficit. They feel with less now she could perform a miracle. So true. So true. So very true. I last seen says, I love my party, but until you understand that the 200,000 who voted under Stuart Young are incensed and will not vote for Penny, so you guys need to resolve this, then yes, we in opposition for years. I hear that. I hear that. PNM people, J. Marshall says, PNM people always bring down PNM people. If it continues like that, Kamala and the UNC will remain in power, and that's all because PNM and rumbling. I hear that too. We had a fix. Charity begins at home to go abroad. All right. Every time a UNC minister mentions Kamala's name in public, you hear loud boos. Right. CC says UNC slept with demons to get elected. Now they are hiding and holding the rest of us to ransom as the blood is being demanded. Last scene says PNM meetings are not resonating. They are useless because the opposition leader, PL, is lackluster on the platform against some most junior MPs and youth officers. Oh, Lord. Firewoman says, Stage, what you promised so in Toko Sangi Grandi to be receiving their threats. Yeah, they make a lot of promises behind and on the side and so on, and now they're not delivering, right? Yeah. So, what they got? I could probably take maybe 2 calls or so. 770. I can't remember the number. It's been so long. For y'all forgive me. I think it's 770-1763. I think. Carol Myers. Teresa Conley. Hi, Teresa. Teresa says we give already place to run, well run it now. Teresa, they'll run it to the ground. And then as is the norm, the PNM will have to come back and fix it. Someone is saying, can you give us an update on the PNM social media team? Have you reached out to Simon? PNM needs help in this area. So, as I said, I know Simon is putting things in place with respect to the social media team. He was not at the General Council meeting yesterday, so we did not have a report from that committee as to what is happening. But the political leader did give a mandate to all committees that they are to report at the next General Council. All committees will be required to report to the General Council what their committees are doing. Coordinators as well will be called upon to report what is happening in their constituencies with respect to party groups and the like. So things are happening, right? Might not be happening as fast as some people would like. But as soon as I have an update on that, folks, I will let you all know. In the meantime, I continue to do what I'm doing. I know the PNM page, they post a lot of stuff. So, Brian.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Greetings.
Good afternoon to your listeners and callers. Dominic, I came in very late on your program, so forgive me if I repeat anything that you would have said already.
Quite all right. You could always go back and look at it.
But there's something I want to get off my chest because all the people have been complaining. You know, these little people I will want to call them,
right?
Like myself. You know, have been complaining to me that it's a shame that they will not be having the Independence Day parade.
Yes.
So I simply told them that what time does the Independence Parade start? It starts in the morning. What happens during the Independence Parade? Tell me where the president is on top of a van and driving around expecting all of the police, the K9 section, the fire, and this one, and the army. And now, what does the prime minister do? Prime minister during an independent parade? She and her ministers and so on would normally, and the minister of defense would inspect the guard and so on, and she would make a speech, and she would sit down in the stands along with the viewing public, and she would make a speech sometime during the course of the morning, you know, before the parade starts and the show of their wares and whatever and so on. I said, but why do you think she's not having one this year and she will not have one next year? I said, because she is not a morning person. Come up with some place I can't gather all the morning to come in town to view no parade and climb no steps and come down no steps in Burgundy Queen's Park, Savannah. You was fall down.
Brian,
the ship came here the other day with the doctors and so on, and she had to, and she was invited to go on and view the wards and so on and where the operating theaters were. Why did she say no? And why was it held after lunch? And she just kicked the car, and they had to come close up to the car. And as soon as they were close, she stepped out, she poured her hand, they shake her hand, she make a speech, jump back in she car and she gone. Because she's not a morning person, she cannot get up. So to use the rules that, it's an SOE, that is all fake. Then they go to a fete in the dead of night, a concert. All of them, all these officials, they want to import a Spain in the night hours. They want to break with their lives. It was during the same SOE. So if in broad daylight, you going where it has so many precepted officers, so many army personnel with firearms and so on. They may not have bullets, some may have, but you will have, of course, you will have all the security you want in Trinidad and Tobago in broad daylight. She can't make that. So they have to look for an excuse for her to stay home. Why is every post-cabinet meeting on a Thursday is held during prime time? Because she's an afternoon person. She get up in the morning. Why do you think she's having all of her officer home? Because she can't get up in the morning, that hour to come fighting for the Spain every day. Because she starts work after lunch and goes into the night. People have to understand these things. Look at it. So you decide to have no independence parade and no fireworks or anything at all. And as you're already talking about this one going and that one going. Huh? All because you're not a morning person and you're afraid people boo you. Boo the hell out of you in Port of Spain. As we used to be seeing, getting help to walk up with 2 little steps and to walk back down before you fall down. Because you couldn't climb the ramp to go and see the doctors when they do the surgeries and so on. Because her brains would have picked up a little tail and throw she overboard. She couldn't climb that ramp, she couldn't walk up the ramp and walk back down on her own. How will it look? That is why she didn't go on the vessel. And it's the same thing with the Independence Parade. You think we'll have SOB again next year? What's going to be the excuse next year? What's going to be the excuse the year after that? People have to understand that if Dr. Rowley was in the same position, everybody would have been questioning why no Independence Parade. Is he unwell? Is he sick? When Dr. Rowley had his final interview before he demitted or he resigned from office, Aka Samora asked me if he is well. I said, look at that. This man is leaving office and they still trying to find out about his health. Kamala Prasad does not get up in the morning to go anywhere. So what sense it makes it have an Independence Parade when you can't walk up these steps and sit up amongst the people and you're afraid to get booed whole day and then you have to walk back down with help? So there will be no need to look for an excuse. So she could stay in bed on the 34th Sunday morning and pray that they're having prayers. But when are we to have the prayers? The Philippines? Was she coming up in town on the 31st, targeting diplomatic center that they say was unfit for her office? People have to look at all of these things. Kamala Prasad, the Cessa, was never a morning person between 2010 and 2015. She don't get up early. Well, it's worse this time because she's older, more inhibited, and it is she will find any and every excuse. Look at their post-cabinet meetings when it is normally held. Sometimes they don't even see the lady because I believe she's doing it via Zoom while everybody else is down. And it's less and less people every single time during the post-cab. Before it was this big stretch out of men behind her and so on, and she loved that. But today, very rare she will come in town to hold those post-cab meetings. And who you hear from the most all the time right now? You would say the Commissioner of Police is a Minister of Government. To swear, there's only hearing mainly from him, from Minister of Defense and Minister of Homeland Security. And very rare you will hear from the rest, only when it's necessary. That is the country, because that is to remove people away from talking about what's going on with all those lost jobs and so on. But they cannot answer that. So expect more. and expect more things to be removed. Because that is how they are. And we may not, as I said before, have any more independence for it. And we will see what is going to happen with respect to when Republic Day comes around. Who's going to get awards and all these sorts of things? And whether she could be sitting down or she could be standing up. Any length of time. We will all see. You're going to have to be held in President's house. She don't want the President to look good in front of her and get applause and so on, while she's inspecting the guards of honor and so on. She don't want that. All the security in the world at the 31st, and you concerned about SOE, or you go on CC Winnings concert, you can't say it properly. You're going to CC Winnings concert in the middle of the night in Port of Spain. You wasn't concerned about your state of emergency and the security then. You and your other ministers. But in broad daylight, you have a concern. What a shame. Denying the poor people, the children of this country, to see something that we have glorified and made so good for so many years. That we can go back in history and remember when we were young and we were able to go. What a shame. This government has absolutely no shame. And they don't give a damn. Thank you very much, Dominic.
Thank you, sir. Oh, Lord. Alana De Pisa says she's warring with the president. Why she called up the president name in her speech on the Monday Night Forum? That's correct. She referred to Her Excellency as a puppet president. And I don't know if it is that the Prime Minister has not yet come to terms with the fact that she is Prime Minister. You are no longer the opposition leader. The things that you could have said as opposition leader, the names you could call people, such as the president when you're in opposition, you cannot do that as Prime Minister. The Constitution requires you to meet on a regular basis with the president. And so when you jump on a platform and say these things and call the president puppet president and talk about how much money the president husband gets as a, and you didn't even know the correct term, the president first husband and all kind of thing, and come on, you cannot be doing that. These people, you all don't understand protocol. You can't do that. You're not opposition leader anymore. But they behave like if they're still in opposition. Poor souls. Let me see here. Patricia says, so wait, she gave Moody he award and nobody else ain't getting on the 31st. This is so disgusting. So I think, well, the award ceremony would have been moved to September the 24th, Republic Day. And again, it speaks to this current situation. If memory serves me correctly, one of the reasons why former President Paula May Weeks would have made that decision is because with all the activities that normally take place on Independence Day, there was nothing significant taking place on Republic Day, and therefore the significance of that day was not being marked. So given the fact that we would normally have had the parade on Independence Day, and we have the fireworks on Independence Day, it was felt, if memory serves me correctly, that we could move the awards to Republic Day so that we would have something significant taking place on that day that would, make it a little more meaningful. Now that you've taken away the two main things that add significance to Independence Day, it means then Independence Day for this year has now become like what Republic Day used to be, right? So nothing really happening. People not really doing anything to mark the day, nothing of significance. So Republic Day will fall on during the 3-month extension, right? That's next month. Let's see if they will come up with a similar excuse, because the award ceremony costs money, right? And you will have all of the same people who you say would be gathered at the Queen's Park Savannah on the same day, everybody in the same place together, the government, the opposition, senior government, senior public officials. They will all be same thing in President's house in one place. So let's see if that excuse holds. Where you say, well, you could protect because, the same protection you could provide for President's house, you could provide for across the road. and the Queen's Park Savannah. Trinidad and Tobago has never had a history of violence to that extreme, and I don't know why they believe that it would happen now. But again, these things only happen when the UNC is in power. Okay? And if things were as bad as they said for the last 10 years, and nobody wanted to kill the Prime Minister, nobody wanted to kill the Minister of National Security, nobody wanted to blow up the AG's office or stage a coup that would make the 1990 coup look like a tea party in 10 years, I highly doubt that now when everybody's supposed to be winning, that they're going to do that. Okay? So. Justin says, I hope you have lunch after all this energy you put out here talking. Oh Lord, I have to go and have lunch, but I have to run away now because I said I have to go do a site visit for a constituent who wants a bridge. And I saw him in the grocery this morning. I told him I would come at 4 o'clock. It's now 4:27. Alana de Pisa says Independence Day is quietest when it comes to crime. Very true. Very true. Even the criminals and all coming out to wind down the place and taking the parade and so on. All right. So, well, at least the soldiers will get arrested this year. Let's see. Folks, it was nice. I stayed on longer than I had planned to, but then that has become the norm. So we probably chat next week Sunday. As I said, I'm headed to Panama in the morning. I'll be there for the week. I will have my laptop with me, but based on the itinerary that I have, I doubt I would have any time to do any live during the week. All right, so we will chat again next week Sunday. God's willing, next week Sunday is the 24th. I don't think I have anything planned, but then again, you can never tell because I get short notice invitations to stuff. Yesterday morning, I was invited to the Arima Borough Corporation Sports and Family Day. I said I was just going to pass through, take the salute for the parade, the march past, and then leave. It didn't quite work out that way because they started late. And then the opposition leader, who is the member of parliament for Arima, she was not there because she would have attended the funeral of young Joshua, 6-year-old Joshua Francois, who died on the 7th in the San Fernando Hospital, that unfortunate incident. So she was not able to attend, and so I kind of deputized for her yesterday. Right? But as I said, invitations just come at you just so. Embassies always having stuff, this and then you just see an email pop up, you're invited to something 2 days hence, 3 days hence. But as I said, unlike Philip Alexander, I am not inclined to accept every invitation that I get. I don't feel the need to attend every event. Okay, if I don't feel to go, I'm not going. If my operations coordinator is so inclined, I tell her, hey, deputize me and you go. I not in the mood. You fix up. Represent for me. Yeah, but some people, oh gosh, invitations, let me see, he there like, I don't know, he like salty in everything. But again, when you have nothing to do other than troll PNM MPs, he inside to troll me yet. I wish he would. I wish he would. Right? Please. Hopefully he will see this and decide to come after me. I would relish that opportunity. Yes, is he feeling big and he bad? Well, I can't debate him because he in the Senate and I in the lower house, so I don't have that privilege, but I'll be more than happy to exchange barbs with you on social media. You know, so somebody who listening who know him, tell him now. Tell him. He put out something yesterday, not yesterday, the other day. I screenshot it and I'll raise it next week. Most disrespectful, right? Throw a jab at Kareem, Marcel. But anyway, we will deal with that next week. Yes, folks, so we will chat again next week. All right. So I'm seeing something about somebody's talking about my blinds. Okay. That's the light on the blinds. All right. So on YouTube, what you think is dirty, it's actually the light coming through on the blinds. Okay. The little things some people is focus on. Focus on the important things now. All right? Folks, next week, we will chat. Have a safe week, a productive one, as I always say. If you're going out on the black carpet, keep safe, and yeah, we will chat again soon. Hopefully nothing too much will happen this week. But with this government, you never know. You never know. And this matter with this parade is not going to, people are not taking it lightly at all. Right? They're upset and they're making their feelings known. So Sarah says Philip does so stupid to truly. Sarah, I wish he would. Please. Let me put out that post so I can respond to him, that counterfeit 1%, right? Who looks like I mean, when I see him walking, modeling, looking like he in his second trimester. Come on, man, better than that. Next week, folks.